Since this is technically like our Halloween edition.
Hi, Facebook Live and YouTube. This is Titans of the Fantastic, Episode 2.
I'm Brittney Greer. I'm a co-owner in American Wasteland Entertainment. We're based here in the Springfield area, so we do a lot of web series-based things. We have a couple shows about to come out. One of them is Strange Happenings, which is Halloween-themed, which is kind of what the show is today. It's going to be like a Halloween-themed show.
Yes, right on, Brittney. I'm Larry Lytle of GeekyKOOL.com, the website Geeky Kool, cool with a K, where we talk geek news, put up trailers, do all sorts of geeky stuff. Check it out. And our normal co-host with us, Keith, is gone today. He is actually outside of St. Louis at Archon. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Archon. Anyway, big science fiction convention outside of St. Louis, the 41st edition. We expect to hear from Keith, probably not during the show, but we expect to hear from him this weekend talking about it. Check this Facebook Live. I'm sure he's going to be posting to the Titans of the Fantastic, giving us updates from that cool convention.
We miss you.
We miss you, Keith. So, episode 2 is without Keith, but that's all right, because we are graced by the presence of a wonderful guest co-host and our special guest for the show. This is Jason Knight, ladies and gentlemen, also heavily involved with American Wasteland and doing all sorts of stuff, but he is the resident horror expert. And as Brittney said, this is our Halloween horror episode, so we're going to be talking a lot about horror movies and the geeky side of that, and we got a lot of questions for Jason and his expertise.
Just imagine like lightning crashing, like some fog.
Now,
I'm not evil.
One of these days we'll have great special effects, but
right.
That will probably be season 2.
We just need you to imagine it right now. Imagine lightning.
And if
spiders.
you would like to give to that event, we'll be glad to take your PayPal information and be able to help get the special effects going faster.
Or if you want to help, if someone's like, hey, I can do special effects.
We do need a special effects artist. If they would like to come in.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Comment below.
We would love that. And YouTube, make sure you add your comments below. And Facebook Live, make sure you pop in some questions and Facebook questions here. We will do our best to keep on top of those, but we know you may not get them all answered. But before we kind of go off topic, as we often do, we're going to go over to our special guest, Jason. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you for having me on board.
You're very welcome. And I'll probably refer to you as Knight because that's how Brittney refers to you.
Everyone calls me Knight.
So, which is kind of a cool thing. You know, we're not at a round table, we're at a square table, but he's definitely a Knight at the square table today.
My friends call me Knight.
All right.
My friends call me.
Dark or not, still Knight, so.
Call me Snake.
Well, I'm trying to bring up the live thing.
Okay, well.
So I could answer questions. If anybody answers questions, I can't get it to work.
If you've got questions, we will do our best. We may not be able to see it all, so if we do see it, we will be glad to answer questions. And if you have questions for Jason with the horror things, please add those here. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave comments below, and we will get those comments to Jason and have him answer those questions. And I'll try to pull mine up also. Do you want to take the first question for Jason, or do you want me to?
Oh, yeah, I can do the first question. Okay, so we both brought some horror films that we may think are underrated. I didn't bring any overrated ones. But so my first question is, as far as the horror genre is concerned, what films do you think are underrated? And then name a few that you think are overrated.
Well, as far as like underrated goes, I think one of the big ones for me personally is Land of the Dead. It's the 4th movie out of Romero's zombie, opus, and a lot of people, especially like even the people that made it, I was kind of surprised by this. They kind of disregard it, It's a little hokey. I mean, I'll give it that, but still, it has that George Romero apocalyptic, dire, depressing atmosphere to it, and I love it. I think it's great. You can start to see that CGI kind of taint some of the more practical special effects, So I think, it loses points for that. But just overall, the whole thing as a whole, I love it. I think it's got a great lead in Simon West. I believe that's his name. I could be wrong on the name on that. But he was a great lead, and the whole idea of a tank being in the zombie apocalypse is just fantastic. So I love that movie. A lot of people don't. That's a big one there. And another one would be Grindhouse. You would think everyone would go see that.
Movie is awesome.
And they didn't. And it didn't do too well in the theater. So I think it's one of those ones that had like that cult following. But that's definitely one I think is greatly underrated. As far as overrated goes, this is the one that has been very influential in horror for like the last 20 years, if not 30 years, but especially in the last 20 years for sure. And that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, yes.
I do love that movie. I think it's good, but man, there are so many imitations of that film. So many people refer to that as the movie that, you know, changed them and made them make all these horror movies, but they're all making the same horror movies. And there's just a plethora of the crazy family cutting people up, turning them into food, cannibal stuff, and you know there's some good ones out there, yeah. But man, as far as just being heavily influenced by that one, I just think, yeah, it's good. It's the last 20 minutes or so get a little irritating, but it's still good. It's still got great atmosphere, got an iconic monster, Leatherface, but boy.
I'm kind of surprised that's what you picked.
I
don't know why.
Well,
I'm just kind of surprised.
I mean, I like it, but I'm just, boy, for as much as it's had an influence on just the horror genre in general, so many filmmakers, you know, love it to that point, that it inspires them. I'm just like, it's not the one that did it for me.
Right.
You know.
And you're talking the original one, not the remake.
Not the remake. You know,
the original one from the 70s.
Yeah. You know, it's the classic one, and it earns its classic. I mean, for being. It's earned to be called a classic, I should say. But boy, I find it to be a rather irritating film by the end. You know, I'm just kind of tired of it by the time, you know, you get to the part where what's her name is caught and she's like screaming, and it's like screaming for 20 minutes, just no, please stop, no, please stop. And I'm like, okay, let's move on. Let's do something else. So it just kind of, I think people kind of praise it a little too much, you know, for what's really there.
And then chainsaw noise. I think a chainsaw is one of the most annoying sounding things ever. Like ever. Like at first it's scary, right? Like it's scary like the first couple of times because it's very loud. And then it's just like, oh, come on. Like I've got a headache. Like let's go back to go to a knife.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's quiet? A machete.
But
that's quiet.
It's not like you don't know it's coming. If they start with a chainsaw, I mean, that's a boom, boom.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a quiet thing that you're just going to hit somebody with. You got to kind of know it's coming, which is part of the scariness that you know somebody has this thing coming.
It's scary sounding, but it's just, it gets to that droning on point, like with the screaming. It gets to the droning on to where it's like, oh my God. Like, you know what I miss? Friday the 13th. You just got a machete. Halloween. You have a kitchen knife.
Yep.
Now, both of those movies came out after the original Chainsaw Massacre, right? Because wasn't that in the 70s?
Well, both of them, I believe, I think Texas Chainsaw was at 75, 76, and I think Halloween came out in 77.
Okay.
Friday the 13th was 1980.
I thought it was 80, so I wasn't sure about Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I want to say Texas Chainsaw was around in the mid 70s. 75, 76 for sure.
That makes sense. And they have that whole trope of
it was real.
the more the trope of the hitchhiker. You know, if you pick up hitchhikers and you're probably going to kill them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, which was a really big thing in the 70s because hitchhiking was a big deal, and then getting killed by people picking up from hitchhiking was a big deal. So, all right. Well, what actually caused you to be a horror fan? What was that first movie or book or show or whatever it was that really got you into the genre?
Well, funny story. I would say for me personally is the movie Ghost Story with Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
That came out in 1981, I think. And I was 3 or 4 when I saw this movie in the theater because my parents went and saw it because it has Fred Astaire.
Right.
Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire.
You can't go wrong with Fred Astaire.
Never did they know that it's it's incredibly terrifying, and it's got like nudity galore, frontal nudity, men and women throughout the whole film. It seems like, not really, but there's a lot of it for like a 3-year-old. You remember that. You remember that. So that's the movie that's always kind of been in the back of my head for like the longest time. And since then, it's been like King Kong, Dracula, Hammer films, all that stuff. You just build and build and build. Godzilla, huge fan of all that. So, and then really, if you want to talk about just kind of wanting to make film, wanting to make horror films or get involved in that, I would say Evil Dead 2 was the film for me. When I saw that, I'm like, wow, what an amazing bug nuts film. And it's like wildly colorful, wildly imaginative, no plot. No plot. Get the pages, that's it, But it was so exciting. And it was such a different look for a film, especially with the camera and how they used the camera and moved around and stuff. So that was the one that kind of made me want to get into filmmaking in general.
So thank you, Sam Raimi.
Yeah, thank you, Sam Raimi.
So.
I know you're watching.
Hopefully you are. And if you are, Sam, comment.
Yeah, he's a huge supporter of the show.
Yeah.
We talked to him last night. Huge supporter.
Boy, I did not know that. That's good news.
Yeah, we're best friends. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. He knows he made a mistake with Spider-Man 3.
Well, he admits that Spider-Man 3 was a mistake, and he did it because he had to. I don't fault Sam for
I'm pretty sure he did a lot of stuff on purpose. I feel like to kind of stick it to him. I feel like that's what happened. I don't appreciate it because I feel like you could have maybe not stuck it to him and maybe done like saved some things, but whatever.
Well, my understanding was a lot of the stuff that happened in that film was because the studio required it for Spider-Man 3. They required Venom to be added. They required...
and Venom should have his own...
He
should be his own... Like, he should be your main bad guy in a film.
You could have not saved the film in making it great, but you could have made it at least watchable if you would have had the scene where he rips off the Venom outfit and it leaks down on to Eddie Brock. If that was the last scene of the movie, with him turning it, rather than having him show up and then be in the movie for 10 minutes and have a pumpkin bomb kill him. What?
Right.
What? That's so.
See, and I lost it with emo.
Well, and I did too. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a good movie.
I love emo Spider-Man.
Oh my gosh.
I hate it. I hate
emo Spider-Man is a great, shows you just how good Peter Parker is because he doesn't wear evil well. He looks ridiculous. And that's what they're trying to do.
Looks ridiculous in that.
They're trying to portray him as ridiculous.
Well, I get that because I'm a big Peter fan. So
it's just unwatchable.
But yeah, if it would have made it, you could have saved it. At least made it tolerable if you would have left Venom alone and had it build up to a real Venom movie. Yeah. How excited would you be with that ending with Venom dripping on to Eddie and him turning and then having his tongue come out, his big long tongue come out? Holy crap, I'd be like, okay, this movie wasn't great, but we're getting a Venom movie, so that'll be awesome.
He was always one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. I loved Venom. Like, I just thought he was awesome.
Well, to get off subject, because we got a load of questions here for Knight, but
sorry.
Venom movie. What do you think of the standalone Venom movie from Sony?
Don't like it.
It's Sony. And it's they're gonna mess it up. They're gonna mess it up.
I don't even worry about them messing it up. I'm sorry. As great of a character as Venom is, he does not need a standalone movie. He needs to be in a movie with Spider-Man, and he needs to be Spider-Man's bad guy in that movie.
Agreed.
You don't need, and everyone's like, oh, but we're gonna get Venom and Carnage. I don't care. He shouldn't be in a, who's gonna be the good guy? Who you rooting for? You're rooting for Venom? Like, what is happening? I mean, is Peter Parker not going to be in it at all?
That's my understanding.
Like, doesn't make any sense. Whatever. Sony doesn't ask me. I'm not paid millions of dollars to make dumb decisions. So,
if you would like our opinion, we are happy to give it to you.
Comment below.
Because we can help you with this movie.
Gosh, yeah. Being
a lifelong Spider-Man fan and Peter Parker fan, You can tell a really cool story with the black suit. You can tell a really cool story with the creation of Venom. But making a Venom a standalone movie that doesn't have any connection to Spider-Man, that doesn't make any sense at all. Especially not with your current Spider-Man, who is a kid in high school, which I love, by the way. Spider-Man Homecoming's my favorite movie of the year, barely beating out Wonder Woman, but a Venom movie, I'm not digging it. If Marvel was more involved, maybe I would find a way that might work, but I say no. I don't want it, even though you're casting the right people for it. I'm liking that.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah, that's Tom Hardy's great.
Tom Hardy against Tom Holland. That would be totally terrifying because he's huge compared to Tom Holland. It's like that's the perfect Venom casting choice. Poor guy, he's always in a mask.
That's true.
Always got his face covered up. But he's so good.
You could make him Eddie Brock pretty easily. I mean, you could do that whole plot line, adapt that to for whatever reason he hates Peter.
And maybe he's in like late college age, or he's like a college dropout. And that's how you can kind of tie it into Peter being in high school still. You don't just have to go, well, Peter's in high school. We got Tom Hardy. He's way too old to be in high school. Let's just do a standalone Venom movie. That's how I feel like the conversation went. I feel like the conversation was, oh, we don't want to replace Spider-Man yet. Because they're going to.
Hopefully not.
Let's just do a standalone movie.
I think with Sony, they're trying to fool the audience to make you think that this Venom movie is going to be part of the MCU.
They are.
You know, there's a lot of people out there, normies.
Yeah.
That don't really understand that there's the MCU, which has got all these movies that are all connected to create a cinematic universe, and then you got other movies that that are owned by other studios that don't belong in the MCU, and people will watch those and think it's part of the same thing, and it's not. And it's not going to be the same quality that the Marvel Studios has been bringing to these licenses.
Yeah, the X-Men movies, the Fantastic Four movies, Spider-Man up until now. Now, right now, Spider-Man has a deal with the MCU and Sony together, and that's what created Spider-Man Homecomings and allowed Spider-Man to be in Civil War. So
in Infinity War.
And soon to be in Infinity War, yes, which we're really excited for. So, but yes. All right. So we've chased that rabbit long enough. Let's get back to asking the horror questions of Jason. All right. I've got a whole list here. So, and I know Brittney has a lot to ask also, and feel free to try it because you were a big horror fan too.
Yeah, I know. I've got like 2, 4, 5. I've got 5 movies over here.
And we will go over those because I think that's going to be cool.
I'm pretty pumped up. They're not all my favorites, obviously, because I don't have Scream, even though we've got Scream behind us, which is one of my favorites because it brought back the horror genre. Let's face it, in the 90s, it brought it back.
It did.
Pumped life into it. But yeah, and I mean, it's kind of unfair because I know a lot of his answers, except for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing. I was kind of surprised by that.
We'll see. That's good.
Yeah, I was a little surprised.
Well, let's go kind of on that vein then, because one of my questions is about some of the horror movies kind of take a comedic effect along with it, and you go anywhere from Scream, which is fairly serious, but also has those comedy lines because it's not taking itself too seriously as a horror movie because it's referencing all the other horror movie genres and don't go out there by yourself because that's when you'll get killed and that whole thing. So you can see everything from that movie to Young Frankenstein being kind of a pseudo-serious but funny movie to you go all the way to Scary Movie and that whole series and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. So with that, how effective is the comedic lines there? Because, with Scream, it was very effective. People really went out and saw that movie. And that movie, as Brittney said, really kind of got the horror genre rebooted back in after it had been sitting there alone for a while after the 80s. And the 80s was a huge horror time. And then the 90s really wasn't until Scream came out.
Yep.
So, and Scream also in the 90s, not only did it kind of pump life back in to horror, so to speak, but it was also the first time a horror film was self-aware.
Yeah, right.
So it was like the first of that, and like after Scream, then a lot of movies started putting that comedic element into it.
You did.
Because like as a writer, like you can't have like on a roller coaster, like you can't continue to go up because you become kind of almost dead inside to it, because it's just like scream after, scream, or scare after scare after scare. You keep going up. Like, you have to have those little comedy elements to kind of help break up. Like, so you're like, oh, I feel safe again.
Right.
And then something scares you, and you're like, oh, I feel safe again because that's funny, or that guy's relatable, or whatever.
Right.
And like, Scream was kind of the first to kind of start doing that to the extent that it's done today. But like, I think it's needed.
Well, I agree.
I think the comedy, even in It, the new It movie, like, oh God, that terrified me. We can talk about that later. It terrified me.
And we will.
It terrified me, but it's funny.
And I've not seen it yet.
You haven't?
Well, I'm not as big of a horror fan as you guys are.
Oh.
So, but we'll talk about that. So what's your feelings on the comedic aspect of the movies, or the ones that are just straight out meant to be funny, like the Scary Movie and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
Right.
Where do you draw a line? Do you consider those still to be horror movies, or do you think it is important, like what Brittney's saying, to add some of that humor in there sometimes? Depending on the movie, you don't want it in every movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things of what you're trying to do. Because some movies, like if you were like what Brittney was talking about, making a movie is a craft, and you have to put things in just the right order. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, you can make a movie that's like 100% horror. It's fully one tone, and that tone for 2 hours can get kind of boring. So if you got those moments of levity, you're going up and down like the roller coaster thing. So it just really depends on what you're trying to make. And sometimes you can kind of make something out of accident. Like for instance, Abbott and Costello meets the Frankenstein monster. It's a funny movie. It's definitely meant to be a comedy, but people still die in it.
Right.
Right. And it's kind of like one of those things where it still has that horror element, that you can appreciate. At the same time. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is just flat out parody. It is flat out to be absurd, and if that's what you're looking for, that's fine. I like the first one a lot. I haven't seen the second one really. At least it's been a long time for me. But it just really depends on what you personally like. Like Scream is a great example of a very serious movie that has serious horror, murders and death and blood and stuff. But it's still funny. It's still a funny movie.
They have a lot of humor in it,
and you enjoy it. And one of the big rules for me is, if I'm trying to write something scary or something, I try to go by one of my rules is to create characters that are so interesting that you don't even need the horror movie stuff to make it a good movie. You could watch these two guys like Return of the Living Dead. If it was just about those two guys walking around in the warehouse looking at stuff, that's a great movie. And you don't even need the zombies, They could have missed all the zombie stuff down in the basement and then had a great movie just with those two guys, The
same thing with It. Like
the
new It. Like
you didn't even need the clown.
Yeah, if you took all of that out, like the kids were so good and they were so relatable and just so much fun to watch. Like you didn't have to have any of that other stuff. Like it could have just been like a buddy comedy, like take the horror out, and it would have been like It, and that's like the name of their club, and like they were just like their summer vacation, like, and you could have just done that, and it would have been just as good as a movie.
Yeah, and it just really just depends on how well you make the film. I like the Saw movies, but they're not necessarily there's not like a lot of humor in those.
No, right.
But again, like horror is so spread out, and like you were saying before, it's like. You have like Monster and Thriller, and you have like the Saw movies where it's more of like the torture porn type stuff, and then you have like your slashers and like your suspense stuff. So it's like it's so far across the board. It's kind of hard to say like what is better, because like with the Saw movies, again, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure to watch those, and I don't think I've ever laughed. Like one time in the Saw movie, and if I did, I feel like there's probably something wrong with me. But new Saw movie coming out, just a drop of news. It's called Jigsaw, I think.
Or is it Saw Legacy? I don't know.
I think it's called Jigsaw.
Just Jigsaw?
Yeah, Laura Vandervoort is in it. I'm excited about it. She was in Smallville. She was in Bitten. She's Supergirl. She's in a show called Bitten, which is really good, about werewolves, which is awesome.
She was in V, the reboot of V.
Yeah, she was in the reboot of V. She was in the new Supergirl show.
Right.
She had like a little cameo in that. But yeah, so she's one of the main characters in it. It looks pretty good. I'm excited. Like I said, it's kind of a guilty pleasure. The Saw movies, like they should have been done a while ago, but I think they're fun. Yeah. So little tidbit of news dropped in is there's
There we
also
go.
a new
That's
Saw.
great news.
There's also
Did not know that.
yeah, also a new Saw movie coming out. So
With a lot of movies coming out. But so you're pretty cool with the comedy aspect, depending on what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting when you go into it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Just you're not going to be scared. It's just there's a parody, kind of fun. My favorite line in that movie, by the way, is "Pass the ketchup." Oh, the poor guy is incognito as a tomato and has to pass the ketchup. And, oops, gives himself away. Anyway, so all right. You have any?
I do have another question.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about like remakes and stuff like that. Because it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but as far as remakes are concerned, I feel like horror films are remade more than like any other film genre like out there. And so one of my questions would be, as like a filmmaker, as a writer, as just a viewer, as far as like horror films are concerned, with all of the remakes that keep happening, do you feel like it hurts it as far as kind of tarnishing what it was originally doing, or helps it to kind of bring it to a new audience to kind of keep people interested in the horror genre?
Really, right now, I'm thinking it really hurts the genre. And because you got like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Halloweens, yeah, big time. But also like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which technically, with the exception of Part 2, has always been, every time they make a sequel to any of those, they're really just kind of like remakes anyway.
Which there's another
one.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre coming out called Leatherface.
And it's going to be the same thing.
It's the same
plot,
as the prequel. Yeah, same as the prequel.
all the other ones.
So if you like the originals, then maybe this is for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the problem, is because it does open up the those characters to a new audience, and that I'm afraid that the new audience will see those as the definitive versions of those, movies, because that's what they saw, that's what they're going to be growing up with, and they're going to look back with nostalgia on the newer films. And so the older ones, and I guess maybe that's just natural, that's just how it happens, but I just feel like, the really good ones that came from a spark of imagination that wasn't just trying to be like something else, that's going to be lost. Because now it's going to be about redoing what other people have already done, and we're not going to get new stories and new characters. It's going to be variations of the same thing we've already seen, Now, I mean, there are good remakes out there. I mean, obviously John Carpenter's The Thing was a terrific remake.
Yes.
But it was different at the same time.
Right.
It improved what the original could not do and focused a little bit more on what the original story was supposed to be about. There's an alien among us, not out there. Where the other one was about a monster that's just roaming around in the hallways killing people. The Thing that John Carpenter made was about the monster being one of us, and we just don't know it, and then that paranoia and stuff. So that still, even though it's a remake, still feels like it comes from a place of originality. A lot of people probably wouldn't approach the subject matter in that fashion. But overall, it's one of those things where they make a Friday the 13th to start off a new franchise, a new line of films, and it doesn't do very well. It doesn't take off. Same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street.
I personally, I do like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Do I think it's better than the original? Well, no. Yeah. Because nothing beats Robert.
Yeah.
Nothing beats him, at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's I personally, I liked the look, I liked the feel of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, not so much. I do love Jared Padalecki. Love him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they took, all of the Friday the 13th movies and was like, hey, it worked then. Let's just make it one movie.
Yeah.
Right? Just take pieces from all of them except for Manhattan. They didn't use that one. But or space.
Well, it's like a weird thing. Like the Friday the 13th remake is such a bizarre thing because it's not really, it's like they remade Friday the 13th Part 1, 2, and 3. and they have to, because he doesn't get the mask till part 3.
No, but he's got to have the mask.
But he's got to have the mask.
Because the kids aren't going to understand it.
And they're not going to have the mom be the killer,
Because that's too obvious.
So it's like, it's not what they're marketable. It's not marketable though. They can't make a marketable film about an old lady that kills kids. The
as 80s were so much better.
Because Friday the 13th was a whodunit kind of killer slasher film. It was a whodunit. And they don't want to do that again. They want to make a Jason movie with Jason and the hockey mask and the weapons and all that. That's the marketable stuff that you can put on a poster and make action figures out of.
Right. And see, and I hate it too, because I think sometimes it helps it, because I think sometimes if a remake is done well enough, it makes people that haven't seen the other ones go back and see them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know some people that have done that, but there's some of them that I really like. Like, I liked the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel. Like, I think it's a very pretty movie. Sounds weird.
Jessica Biel.
Well, not because Jessica Biel's in it. She is pretty. But, I mean, like, it's shot, the way it's shot, like, the angles they use, and they do a lot of fun things with lighting. There's a lot of stark lighting, when they backlight the house. It looks like the house is part of the family. Like, the house is also part of the killing family is what it looks like with how it's lit. A lot of high angles from staircases. So I think it's shot very pretty, like, very pretty. Like, I like that one. House of Wax. I just watched this. Last week.
Yeah, House of Wax is good.
I love House of Wax. Like, I love that remake. I think that movie is so fun.
That's a good underappreciated movie.
Yeah,
the House of Wax remake, because there's some pretty good imagination with that one.
Yeah, there's some really nice scares. Like, there's some really good, again, good special effects. Like the way it's shot. There's like really nice fun shots. I love that movie. And people want to down it because Paris Hilton's in it, and we just talked about this last week because I was watching it again. But, like, I think she does really good in it. She does such a good job in that movie.
Well,
and it's just, again, it's people say, oh, it's Paris Hilton, so that can't be a good movie.
The house,
really good.
It's called The House of Wax, and then the house turns out to be made out of wax, and you would think that would be kind of stupid, because that is.
So neat.
But it was neat, like the way they incorporated it into the movie. It's like, it was actually kind of cool.
Except for his literally line. I don't like that line. It kills me every time. The house is made of wax. Like, literally.
Yeah.
This is key. Besides that, taking that out, I love that movie. But yeah, I think that's an underappreciated movie because, again, there was some imagination that was put into that you weren't seeing at the time. And so, like, and that was kind of that time frame of, like, the House of Wax, I think, came out in, like, the 2000 area.
Right.
We were kind of discussing that. But, like, the late 90s, you were getting, like, 96, 97, you were getting Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legends. So you had these horror films, again, trying to be more imaginative, like, with what they were doing, not doing remakes. And then, like, the 2000s hit, and then it was, like, then they started, like, remaking them, and that was a big craze. Was, because you had, like, that same area, you had The Stepfather being remade, you had House of Wax being remade. I Spit on Your Grave being remade. So you had all these.
Psycho, which was almost shot for shot the same movie.
Yeah, and like Psycho was remade, and it's like there's certain ones that I think are classic to the extent that should not be touched. Psycho, for instance, was one of them.
Yeah.
I didn't think that should have been touched. I felt like that was a huge no-no. The same thing, like kind of with like Halloween. Like again, I don't know why it doesn't bother me that they did it to Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, but to me it's like. I felt like if you're going to do a Halloween movie, which with what they're doing right now, I'm excited about. Don't take it away from me. Don't take it away from me. I'll smack you. But, like, with Halloween, like, I felt like that was such a staple, like, for me, like, because besides Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which we can talk about later, it's one of the movies I brought, besides Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Michael Myers, so clowns, just in general, and Michael Myers, to me, were two of the most terrifying things on planet Earth to me. It's just gotten, in probably the last 4 years, that I can actually watch Halloween, like any of the Halloween movies by myself. Because the mask, the music, it all terrified me. I used to think I saw it at my grandma's house. Like, I would swear up and down I saw him in the barn at my grandma's house. like swear up and down. Maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe he was really there.
Brittney's a crazy person.
Kind of.
Help.
But like, so to me, it was like a huge no-no when they remade Halloween. Like, if you want to like add on to it, that doesn't bother me as much.
They Kentucky Fried it.
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Horror, Rob Zombie style. It's like, ugh, this is awful. This is a lot of profanity for some reason.
Yeah, and it's just over the top. And like, to me, like, and again, it's hard, like, Larry's just like, oh God. Just because we talk about a lot of this just at the house in general, because we both are such horror movie fans. But it's something that we talk about, that like, what makes Michael Myers scary is the fact that you don't know a whole backstory. Like, to us, like, it's something we've discussed, and like, to me, like, with that first Halloween Rob Zombie movie, if they would have taken out that first huge chunk and to be different, don't even show that stuff, it just be like a story that's told around the Haddonfield area. But it's like, you jump and the first thing you see is this giant guy, like you see inside of his room, he's got masks all over the wall, and Danny Trejo's character is like moving him from one place to another. And you see this massive guy that's like, started out, he's already in the insane asylum, and go from there. Don't give me this, oh, you should feel bad for him because he had a bad childhood. It's like, I don't want to feel bad for Michael Myers. He is a horrible individual. He kills people. Like, he's bad. Don't make me feel bad for him. And Rob Zombie, another thing we've discussed is I think he's a smart guy, and I think there's certain things he does in his film that are really great, and there's certain things I really, really like about it. But, I mean, come on. Like, it gets to an extent that he wants you to feel bad for the bad guys in every movie. Like, except for A House of a Thousand Corpses.
That's another one that's greatly
one.
underrated.
I can't watch it. I've watched it twice. It makes me very sick to my stomach.
Devil's Rejects is overrated. I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's good.
That's another one that's another good. But people go to Devil's Rejects.
Oh yeah, everyone loves that. Everyone loves that one.
Chris Hardwick, by the way, is also in A House of a Thousand Corpses. A lot of people don't realize that. He's the guy that screams, Dr. Satan!
Did not know that.
Just for all you Talking Dead fans out there. Chris Hardwick is in House of a Thousand Corpses. Go watch it. He's in it.
Yep. So is Dwight from
Yeah.
The Office.
So Rain.
Dwight from The Office.
Dwight from The Office.
All right.
Rain Wilson? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, that's Rainn Wilson.
We'll go with that. Just making names up.
No, it is.
So because the genre is divided up in a lot of different aspects, what's kind of your favorite part of that? What is your favorite go-to with the horror genre? Is it the thrillers or just the slasher movies? What's your favorite one?
Well, I would say for me, honestly, it's like anything directed by John Carpenter, it seems like, really. But I think, like, just personally, the classics, the Universal horror and the Hammer films are kind of my foundation. I love Christopher Lee. I love Peter Cushing. I love Vincent Price, Peter Lorre. Those actors seem to really, especially Vincent Price. Yeah. Oh, you can watch him in the worst horrible thing ever, and he's just this shining star, this gem in this pool of nonsense. But it's those are the people that I love to watch, and so the classic horror films, Brides of Dracula is one of my favorite films of all time. It doesn't have Dracula in it, and it doesn't have Brides of Dracula in it, but it's one of my favorite films because of the director, Terence Fisher, one of my favorite directors. But Peter Cushing, oh, it's just fantastic. I love those films. I can go back and watch them over and over and over again, no matter how bad they get sometimes,
I agree with you. I love a lot of the classic stuff like that. I think a lot of times it's because it scared you without having to show you too much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Like my favorite horror movies are the ones that typically you don't see a lot. It's that the thriller part of that gets me going. Psycho, I think was a great movie because you really didn't know what was going on, and all of a sudden this mother figure's killing people, but then you realize. I mean, I love the twist at the end. First time for Spoiler alert for those that don't know.
And you should know at this point.
You should know.
If you don't know,
if you're watching
shame
this
on
show, if you're watching this show, really.
That isn't really good. But Hitchcock, also another person that kind of changed the face of horror.
Yes.
You know, he changed the face of horror
Well,
for a lot of
isn't
people.
he kind of a wonderfully peculiar person where he has those moments of comedy
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
his dark films?
Oh, he does.
You would see him in the background walking a dog or something, or going into a building, and you would see him there, and it's just a little levity, you know, if you were just paying attention, you know, something like that. It's just, you know, crafted very well into the film without it being obvious, you know.
My favorite Hitchcock movie, Rebecca.
Really?
Wow, that's yeah. So I was told that I can't remember. Somebody told me that was their favorite, and I was like, wow, I have to watch that one.
That one's great. If you've not seen it,
I haven't seen it yet.
here's the reason why. My mother, who's not a big horror person, but she loved that movie. So it was on back in the 80s. They would show movies after the news on Friday and Saturday nights, and before they would, you know, turn off the station, which they did back then. So it was on, and my mother allowed me to stay up. I think it was 8 or 9 or something, pretty young, to stay up and watch this with her because it was her favorite Hitchcock movie, and I just fell in love with it. And I think maybe it's part of that bonding with your mom,
Yeah.
and you're having this connection. But I go back and watch it still. I really love that movie's hard to find. That one's
Right.
not
Yeah,
one
it is
that.
hard.
That's
that-
right.
Because it's not
that you
as
find.
as popular.
Right.
You don't hear about it, and yet it does have that influence on a lot of people. And I'm like, why?
It's a really cool ghost story.
Wow.
It's just really cool. Typical Hitchcock, typical not knowing what's going on, and just kind of builds up. And you're like, what is happening here? I just love that movie. So, but Psycho's right behind it.
Right.
So Psycho's just
Well, you know, I
phenomenal.
wonder if it's just because Psycho just kind of overshadowed it, and people don't go,
Yeah.
right.
you know.
Well, you got the big
And
ones.
and birds.
Birds.
I mean,
Birds.
birds.
Right. Exactly. You got Birds being the other big one.
See, and mine's Rear Window.
Yeah, Rear Window's
Like,
great.
hands down, because it terrifies me to think that you can't do anything.
Mhm.
Like you're watching and like nobody believes you.
Right.
Because you're just this crazy person. Like, and it's like one of my favorite Castle episodes.
Yes.
Castle, they do a fun Rear Window thing, and they do it because he's a novel. Like, I mean, he loves these type of things.
He
He's
does.
a novel writer, and so it's like I think it was their 100th episode, maybe. Like they did a big special thing, and they did a huge Rear Window.
And he broke his
episode.
leg. And,
Yeah, like he couldn't move, and
Right.
it's like,
He
you
had
know,
a
they have the
telescope.
neighbor, yeah, and it was like they bought up binoculars. It was really fun. They set the
Yeah.
whole thing up. Spoiler alert. You should have, it's been off the air for a while. You should have just caught up already. But yeah, Rear Window is like one of my favorite Hitchcock
I'm with you.
movies.
Rear Window's great.
Stewart, I mean, come on. He's just great.
He is.
Love
Agreed.
that guy.
So what are your favorite horror movies that kind of mix with other genres, such as the horror fantasy, horror sci-fi, the monster movies? What's your favorite ones in those?
That's a great question. Because it's like my favorite film of all time is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And that movie is just a hodgepodge of everything I love
Mhm.
film-wise, you know.
Awesome.
It's a vampire western.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's got some kung fu stuff going on in there, you know. It's a gangster film.
Mhm.
You know, they rob the bank, all this stuff. And there's a lot of, like, nods and name dropping and things like that to classic films, especially, like, you know, like John Wayne and whatever.
Right.
And a blaxploitation, having Fred Williamson in your film, you know. Oh, my gosh, Tom Savini. You know, just everything.
Love Machine.
Yeah, Sex Machine.
Or Sex
Yeah.
Machine. The gun.
just a wild imagination, you know, and that one in particular, and even the sequels, like the second one is actually pretty good too. It's a very sloppy film, but it's very Evil Dead 2 because Scott Spiegel directed it, but that's another great one too. The third one is pretty good until the vampire stuff starts to happen. It's kind of the exact opposite, you know. With From Dusk Till Dawn, I thought the movie got better when the vampire stuff happened. In the third one, it's classic westerns, takes place in the 1800s.
The Hangman.
Yeah, The Hangman's Daughter. It's really good. It is great up until the vampire stuff starts to happen. Once all the hoopla starts to happen with the vampires, it gets very weird and uncomfortable. Like there's a lady that's supposed to be sexy, I guess, and she's not, and it's weird. And they kind of linger on her too much, so it's very awkward. But anything like that, and there's like a movie like an Outpost called The Outpost, which is like a war movie, and
Yeah.
these guys stumble upon a bunker that is, I guess it has something to do with experimenting on Nazis that turned them into zombies, and they can't be killed, and it's just, stuff like that. Well, it's not World War II, but it has that World War II element to it, it's modern day. So I really like that one too, but I love blending the genres together.
Yeah.
There's another one called Versus, the Japanese film Versus.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It is great, except for the director kind of went back and shot some stuff and put it into the film after he made it. And it's like a 2-hour movie, and he put some more stuff in it. It's like, no, you should have just left it as is. But Versus is great. It's about like the battle between good versus evil, between two men that have to fight to maintain a portal to hell or whatever. And they're in a forest called the Forest of Resurrection. So the people that the mob has been killing and burying in this place, they all start to come back to life, and they can use weapons and guns and things like that. So they got to fight them off, and it's fun. Oh, that's a fun one. So that's another one that I really love. So yeah, so the blending of the genre thing, that's like probably my favorite thing.
Well, and from Dusk Till Dawn's fun because when you're watching it, you're like, how are vampires going to fit into this?
Right.
Because it doesn't feel like it's a vampire movie at all. Like if no one told you about it and just said, here, I want you to watch this Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez film.
Yeah.
I want you to watch it. Yeah. Like they would be like, oh, so it's like a shoot 'em up movie. Like so it's like about these brothers that rob people. Okay, and then like you get was the bar called the Titty Twister?
Yeah, the Titty Twister.
You get there and then it's just like, ooh.
Well, it's a funny way to explain it.
The guy playing on the guitar.
Yeah.
With the limbs.
Yeah.
Again, these are all stuff my dad had me watching horror films a lot. I watched horror films with my mom. I watched Scream for the first time with my mom back in '96. My mom took me to see Urban Legends in the theater. And I watched all kinds of horror films with my dad. That was my childhood. This is a lot of horror films.
I would see Scream because I'm a big Drew Barrymore fan. So then I was very disappointed when they killed her the first time.
She decided that. She was going to play Sydney. This is genius, though. This is genius. And this is another reason why I love the Scream franchise so much, is because I believe she was given the option of who she wanted to play. I believe. I could be wrong. But she and Wes decided, she's going to play Casey at the beginning to set it up because she's this huge star. She was like the biggest person in the movie.
Right.
To set it up and make the audience members very uncomfortable and afraid that anybody could die at any time because you just killed Drew Barrymore in the first 8 minutes of your movie. It's like, and to me, that's genius. Like, you get this huge star, and you destroy her in the first 8 minutes, which still, to me, is one of the most terrifying scenes ever, especially being a girl that has been home alone. Like, that's terrifying, because now you have cell phones, you can just block people. Back then, you just had to answer the phone. You had no idea who was calling you.
Right.
It's just like, and then it was so scary, because it was like the first time cell phones were being used in a horror film, that you could call somebody and be outside their house. You didn't have to be at home. Like, to me, that's genius. And I love Drew Barrymore, but it's genius to have this huge star and just kill him right away. It's like, great. No one's making it out.
One of the best rules for horror films is anyone can die at any time. So, you just depending on who you are as an actor, your status in Hollywood, Deep Blue Sea, Sam Jackson, main character, give him the speech. Jaws hates him,
it was actually a mako shark.
Sharks are sharks.
Nope. Jaws was a great white, and the Deep Blue Sea sharks, if I remember correctly, were mako sharks because their head, the brains were bigger.
See, there you go. And now we know.
Right?
Keith would be bringing this to normally, but...
Right? You see a star.
Exactly.
Like a star go across the screen.
You
know. See, if we had graphics, if anybody would do our graphics for us,
we would love it.
We would have a little star that shot across the screen.
My favorites when you start mixing genres, and I'm from Dusk to Dawn. I've seen that one. I'm not a Tarantino fan. I just the over the top gore and cursing. I'm just not a fan. There's certain movies of his that I can handle and like, and certain ones people love that I just can't stand, and that's okay. That's just, I'm just different that way than a lot of people. But I really like that movie because of it incorporating so many genres. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But my favorite is Army of Darkness.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go back with the fantasy thing,
Oh, yeah.
and that's just a great way to play with that whole Evil Dead thing in a new way. And I've not seen the new Evil Dead show on.
Oh, that's a fun one.
I've seen the first season. We need to catch up. We have so many things we got to catch up on.
There's a lot of
The
good
first
stuff.
season is really good. Like, it's so much fun, but it's hard to go wrong with Bruce Campbell.
I agree.
You cannot
Love
go
Bruce
wrong
Campbell.
with Bruce Campbell.
I love
Like,
Bruce.
you just can't. He's so good at it. Like, oh god, and like how everything comes about again, it's just fabulous. And I feel like it's definitely what would happen.
And because I don't have cable, I don't have. Is it HBO that's on or Showtime? Showtime. I don't have that, so I don't have a way of seeing it unless I go buy the season, which I need to do. I want to do. I also have to know having kids. I have to be careful when I watch certain things
Right?
because I don't want to take them at age 3 to the movies.
Yeah, and my dad was just like, no,
here you go.
it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's totally cool.
Full nudity, it's okay. It's all right.
It doesn't matter.
That head flying off there, that's okay.
I think that's why I'm a little. Yeah, I think that's why I'm a little different. But that's okay.
Alien.
Oh yeah.
Alien's my favorite horror movie.
Yeah.
That movie got me. The sequel is great, but the sequel is a science fiction movie with horror aspects.
Yeah.
The first Alien is a horror movie with science fiction aspects.
Because it was the first time you couldn't leave the house.
Right.
Alien was
right,
the
because
first time you couldn't just leave the house. You were stuck.
You were stuck there. Well, and you didn't know who was going to die. Who's
Right.
the hero being Ripley at the end? That's great. Was it one of the first times that a female actually is the hero of the show?
Dallas, it's funny too because Dallas is supposed to be like the lead. Tom Skerritt's character, he is the main lead in that film. And then like halfway through, he goes into the ventilation shaft and he gets him, and he's like, you're like, well, what's going to happen?
Again, it's scary because your leader's gone. It's like, well, great, they're all dead. Leader's gone.
Yep.
Like,
Right.
Yep.
None of these guys are going to step up.
And then you don't really see the alien in its full form until close to the end.
Yep.
I mean, that's great. I love how they did that. So Alien.
Your mind's scarier. Like your mind comes up with scary things
It
when
does.
you don't show everything right away.
I think that's one of the things I like, and that's why I'm not a big slasher movie guy because I don't need the blood and guts as much. I don't need all that because I want to be kind of let my imagination run. But
that's my favorite.
I know. And I'm just not. I'm not a slasher movie, and that's all right.
You can kill them, or at least you think you do. Like I like ghost. I don't like ghost movies. I don't like it. I don't like ghost movies, except for I like some of them. But like in general,
Ghost was good with
Patrick Swayze.
That was a
and
good
Jimmy
one.
Moore.
Scared the crap out of me.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, but I mean like Ghostbusters. I mean like as far as like horror films are concerned, I like having like a killer that can be stopped. Whether or not you actually stop them and they make a sequel and it comes back like your Halloweens, your Friday the 13th, and your See No Evils or whatever. But having the notion that you get to have a final girl or you get to have that moment where you get to root for somebody and they're gonna kill them. It's like, that's why I like the slasher genre so much because you always have at least one survivor that gets to like kill the bad guy. And it's fun because they usually do it in a fun way, like where they use their machete against them, or you know what I mean? Like it's fun because you get to see them being proactive. Where like ghost movies, half the time they're just screwed or like demonic stuff. Like I don't like the Exorcist type movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of those. Like the Annabelles. Like like there's a big craze with those right now. With like your Sinisters and your Annabelles, and it's just those just are not my. They're not my horror films. Like Paranormal Activity. I just don't like them. I don't like those films. He does.
I do.
I don't like The Conjuring. Like The Conjuring scared me, but it's like I just don't like that type of horror film. You know, we were talking about the different genres, and it's like I can't wait until and I'm hoping that this new Halloween movie is gonna do it. Because we're gonna have to talk about here in a second. We will. We'll have to talk about it. with what's happening with that because I'm so stoked. But I'm hoping with the new Halloween movie that maybe we'll get back into that swing of the slasher movies, is what I'm hoping. That's just me personally. But
I get that. I mean, probably the movie that scared me the most seeing it as a teenager was the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And part of the reason was I had to walk home after that movie.
were you just seeing them like coming down the
I
alley?
kept hearing, the girls singing in the background in my head, and but the interesting thing of that movie is you have her winning, and then going and getting on the school bus, and then
does she win?
What does she? And then Freddy's right there.
That's why
that was
the
kind of the
third. That's why Dream Warriors is like one of my favorite Freddy movies. I love Dream Warriors because so rabbit hole time. Okay, so I had, and I know you're gonna say it's because I watched a lot of horror films, but I don't necessarily think that's it. But so I had like night terrors a lot. I had nightmares all the time when I was a kid, all the time before I even started watching like horror films. So my brother, so shout out. My brother was like, and it had to have been after he saw Dream Warriors. I mean, I'm sure that's what it was. But my brother told me, like, he was like, they're your dreams, so you can control them. Right? So he would tell me, like, in your dreams, if something's coming after you, pretend like you have an axe and, like, swing an axe at them and, like, you can defeat them. Right? So I'm like, oh, my gosh, like, my brother just came with this awesome idea. I'm really young, and so it's like, that's the stuff I would try to think of, like, going to bed is I have a weapon in my hands, right? And then I see Dream Warriors, and I'm like, yep, like, this is it. It's true. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. So I love Dream Warriors because it's like the advice my brother gave me, like, shadowed what he saw in this movie. And I know it had to have been because he watched Dream Warriors. So it's like one of my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Because they get to kind of become these superheroes in their dreams to try and like fight against them. I do hate that the killer though. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Who did they kill?
Bandcamp? Is that?
Oh yeah, Heather Langenkamp. Yep.
It's so sad. It's like that is the one thing they shouldn't have done. I don't think they should have done that. They bring her back. They bring her back.
They
She's fine.
They bring her
Just
back.
to flesh
yeah.
But it was like, I was pretty devastated when I saw it.
What did you think of 2?
I did not
2 is a fun
That's
movie.
The one with the,
like
that's the one with the kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Freddy coming out of his stomach with his hat on. And
they didn't understand the rules.
Right.
For Freddy.
Right.
So it's like some kind of weird possession movie.
See, and again, possession.
With like a lot of gay undertones and things like that, and it's just an uncomfortable film. It's like they don't know what they were doing with that sequel. It's a very rushed film, like probably like a first draft.
Right. Well, they wanted to get something out there to
see. In Halloween 2, I feel like is a very strong. See, I like the second Halloween film.
Halloween 2 is great.
I mean, that's a strong. It's a strong film.
It's a good movie. I mean, it's good in a different way. It's not as scary as the first one, but it's still like a fun film. A lot of great atmosphere. And
was there a third one where it kind of went off the rails?
Season of the Witch.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The fine folks at the Horrible Movie Podcast did that one. Shout out to the Horrible Movie Podcast out there. If you're not listening to that podcast, check it out.
Oh my gosh.
But they did a whole episode on that, and I just laughed because I'm like, I've not seen this movie, but just listening to it, I'm like, I almost kind of want to see it.
It's a weird movie because it's.
What's the song?
2 more days till Halloween.
Yes.
Halloween. Yeah, Silver Shamrock. But no, I mean, Halloween 3 is one of those movies. It's like a great concept that was poorly executed because the idea of using like Stonehenge and bringing back the witchcraft and like this guy basically is trying to bring horror back to the Halloween season. So he's going to play this huge practical joke on everybody, and it's like this horrible way of killing everybody with these masks. You put these masks on, and it sends out a signal, and it makes them all die. The masks compress, and like all these bugs and snakes come out of their face. It's fantastic. It's great. It's just a poorly executed movie. It's got Tom Atkins in it.
He's great.
He's good, even though he should be playing more of a cop-like character. The characters aren't that great, and the movie doesn't make any sense. because anyone can turn into a robot at any time.
And there's a stupid song that plays the whole movie long. It is very annoying.
But it's got a lot of, like, the masks and everything are very iconic, and the concept is really good. It's just that the movie itself, they probably had like a 30-minute good story that they had to stretch to like a 2-hour film, and they just didn't know what to do with it. And because of that, if they had made a great film, you would not have had Halloween 4, 5, and 6. You would have had Halloween 4, 5, and 6 that have different stories, just different Halloween-themed stories, not just Michael Myers.
Right.
Essentially what Trick or Treat did. Like, Trick or Treat took that concept, but
made it one film.
And another underrated movie is Trick or Treat. Like, it's just now starting to get this cult following or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, it had like limited release, and because people again didn't understand it, it's kind of like the Grindhouse thing. People didn't get it.
Yeah, they don't know how to market it.
Yeah, to what was going on, but they kind of did a similar thing where they took the feature-length movie and you have different aspects of horror with these different stories, and then by the end of it all, the stories have connected, which is so cool. Like, it's such a good movie.
Pulp Fiction of Halloween.
Yeah, it's so good. It's a solid movie,
it's the same kind of concept. All these different stories that intertwine.
And Tales of Halloween, which Trick or Treat's way better.
Trick or Treat's way better.
But Tales of Halloween kind of did a similar thing, which is what I kind of think Season of the Witch was trying to do, is to where they could continue the Halloween thing without having Michael Myers in it, but they would all be Halloween themed movies. Like, it would always be like at Halloween time and something horror related with Halloween. And it's just since Season of the Witch just failed because, in my opinion, it failed because people heard Halloween and are expecting to see Michael Myers.
Right.
Like, Knight was like, hey, we should watch Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, because you haven't seen it. And I'm like, yeah. And we watch it, and I don't see Michael Myers in it. So I was thrown for a loop, and I didn't like it because immediately I'm expecting Michael Myers to show up. And he didn't. At all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, he did. He's on the TV.
He's on the TV. Forgive me. Forgive me. I don't recommend Halloween 3. I feel like that's the one we should be erasing.
So, all right. Let's move on to a few other questions. We're going through the clock pretty quick, so
we'll get into fights real fast when it comes to Halloween movies.
Brittney's a little sassy.
I am.
We all know that. That's part of the reason we love Brittney so much.
I am sassy. Only because I'm passionate.
Right.
I'm only sassy about things that I love. I can't help it that I love things a lot. And a lot of different things.
Nothing wrong with that. As a fellow geek, I'm with you completely. Right. If it's something I'm passionate about, I'm on it. This is what it's all about. So, yeah. Part of the reason why I hated the Amazing Spider-Man movie, or didn't like it as I wanted to, because I wasn't my Peter Parker. That was some sort of skateboarding.
The Clone Saga. It's the Clone Saga.
Maybe it was a clone. That Gwen Stacy in that movie, great, but Peter Parker, horrible. So, anyway, favorite monster movies.
Ooh, that's a.
Do you want to say Godzilla?
Well, honestly, as much as I love Godzilla, King Kong would still reign supreme. Yeah. Because King Kong, the old 1930s King Kong is like a perfect film, and that's really another one that's been like inspirational. Well, but like how you're talking about watching something with your aunt.
Yeah, my mom.
Your mom, right? Having that bond over a film. I had that with my dad. I would watch King Kong, Son of Kong, and Mighty Joe Young with my dad. Yeah. All the time growing up when I was little. So that has that special place of nostalgia in my heart.
Yes.
For King Kong. So because of that, I would have to say probably King Kong as far as monsters go. That first film especially. Boy, it's never been topped. I mean, Peter Jackson made a remake of it, and as much as I like it, it's terrible compared to the original.
Well, how about the 70s version? I mean,
boy, I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
I really do. It's kind of sloppy, but it's got some great visuals.
It does. That's actually the movie that got me into monster movies.
Oh yeah.
That was my first introduction to monster movies because they were showing it on TV. They had it was a TV special thing. And Jessica Lange, I believe, was the actress.
Yeah.
And I got involved with it. And that actually caused me to go back and watch the original one, which I went, wow, for the time, this is phenomenal.
See, and that's what we're talking about. With some people, remakes make you, or sequels make you want to go back to watch the original. So where it's like a toss-up to where, to me, if it hurts or helps.
Well, and it depends on the person. Are they willing to go back? There are people that won't go back and watch old movies.
Right.
Anything that's 20 years old or older, they won't touch because that's too old.
And some of those monster movies are, technology-wise, because it's, to me, and again, I was talking to somebody else, and it's something we talked about with it, is, to me, it is terrifying. That movie is terrifying, and just a solid movie as far as a writing standpoint. The CG takes me out of it. The practical effects in a lot of these older movies, so, fun story, we watched, before we came today, we watched Ernest Scared Stupid. I love that guy. But Knight brought up a really good point of, as we were watching it, it's funny. Okay, that guy is great. Okay, he is great. Yeah, he has some great one-liners in that movie, or just in general. Yeah. But we were talking, and Knight brought up a good point. He said, why this movie actually still holds up is the practical effects.
Right.
You can go back and watch some, the old King Kong movies, because they were doing things because they didn't have the money, they didn't have the CG, and the technology to add in all this stuff. And, most of the time nowadays when you watch something and, it's digital blood thrown in, which I get it, it's, in the long run, it's
easy
cheaper.
To clean up digital blood.
Yeah, you don't have to... Yeah, you don't have to do the messy stuff, but to me that's why I like slasher movies. It's because it's fun. It's and where American Werewolf in London, like those movies, where you see a guy transform into a werewolf in front of your eyes, and it's all prosthetics and mechanical stuff. It's that stuff holds and looks good today because they did practical effects, and that's why the Peter Jackson King Kong, it's you lose me because it's so much CG.
Yeah,
but
you're running in front of a green screen.
Yeah, and look at Jurassic Park. That movie still holds. I know they use green screen for some stuff and CG, but they built, they had raptors that size that they controlled mechanically. They had a T-Rex that size that they controlled mechanically, and that's why Jurassic Park holds today. Because you're yep, dinosaurs are real. Yep. There's a T-Rex on an island somewhere murdering people.
And that's one of my favorite monster movies, too. Jurassic Park,
the
whole series. I mean, I like the whole series. There are ones that are better than others, but
Raptors.
But dinosaurs, I love dinosaurs.
Raptors are my jam.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I love raptors.
I'm more of a T-Rex guy, but I get it. So
I love raptors. They're just, they're like a wolf pack.
They are.
But more vicious, and that crazy talon that sticks out, and he's tapping it, and opening the door. It's of course a raptor's gonna figure out how to open a door because they're the best ever.
But one of the first things I remember watching as a kid was getting up on Saturday mornings and watching Land of the Lost.
Oh yeah,
the old classic Land of the Lost, and that
Good.
actually helped build my love for dinosaurs. And the
good
Allosaurus and the T-Rex in there, and when you look at it, you look and see, okay, those aren't, to today's standards, those aren't great effects. But what you don't realize is they revolutionized some special effects at that time.
Yeah.
They were spending more money per episode on that show than they were spending on most episodes of shows that were an hour long during the week, or weekdays. The special effects budget was outrageous. One of the reasons it only lasted 2 seasons, well, other than you got rid of 3 seasons, got rid of the dad, the brother and the uncle, and that of course always jumps the shark. But I loved that show as a kid.
Yeah.
So when the stop motion,
the stop motion,
and all that stuff.
And if you look at that compared to even some of the graphics in the 80s for different things, it really does really well when you're comparing the genres of stuff. So that actually developed a love for me for dinosaurs and all that, and my sons picked that up, and so which leads me into Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and all that. So
Jurassic Park's solid.
Oh, it's very solid.
There are. I know it's not a horror film, but there are some scary moments Like when she's like running through and like the hand touches your arm and you're like, ooh, she's safe, and it's like the hand comes off and then like a raptor just slams into the gate.
Yeah,
you're like,
right.
Great. You know, it's kind of like that Deep Blue Sea. That's kind of what I feel like whoever wrote Deep Blue Sea, I don't know who wrote it, which I do love that movie. I think it's fun.
It's an anti-Jurassic Park.
Fun story. It's my favorite shark movie. Not Jaws. I'm weird. But, because I think it's so fun. But to me, it's scarier that they're in our territory. But, like, that's what I feel like they did, is, like, they saw Jurassic Park and said, let's put sharks in our world. Because that's what I feel like they did with Jurassic Park is they're not scary when they're out in the park. They're scary when they're in the kitchen. They're scary when they're in the hallways. Like, because it's like, whoa, you're not supposed to be here.
Right.
So I feel like who wrote Deep Blue Sea was like, let's do that with sharks.
Right.
Let's put sharks in a living space where you're supposed to feel safe, right? Where they're not supposed to be able to get you. Like, geez, that movie, sharks are scary.
Well, I was out on Netflix and Hulu last night looking for horror movies, just kind of seeing what was there and also seeing if there was anything that I would feel comfortable watching and or that would just kind of grab my attention. And I saw, and I didn't watch it, but it was basically, the premise of it, I don't remember the name of it, was there's a zombie apocalypse, but they all get put on, what is it?
The Resort.
Yeah, The Resort with a Z. Yes! Have you seen that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I have it on my Insta.
I saw that and went, so it's Jurassic Park with zombies. Huh. I kind of want to watch it, but I'm not sure. It's either going to be really kind of cool or really bad. So.
And I feel like that's most horror films. They're either going to be really great, and you're going to either love them because they're so bad,
Yeah,
or love them because they're so great,
right.
Or they're just going to be like unwatchable.
Yeah.
As long as it's entertaining, I think that's really kind of like the main premise for any movie is as long as it entertains in some kind of way.
Right.
You know, it's kind of so bad it's so good. You know, that kind of thing. So I you know, a lot of times if something's bad, it's just something that you just don't like.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And that's kind of like the thing with me. It's like if it's enjoyable to some degree, you know, it's kind of a good movie.
Well, it depends on each person's a little different on what's enjoyable that day. So, Tucker and Dale.
Dale and Tucker versus Evil.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But that's a solid movie. But again, that's an innovative. Yeah, and it's an innovative. It's very creative. It's a very creative and well written, well acted.
Yeah.
You know, movie that again is underrated. That a lot of people don't know. Alamo's doing like multiple showings of it, right? Like October, we're about to head into. They're going to do multiple showings of it too.
And I wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't for Alan Tudyk. So he actually, I went, okay, it looks kind of funny. And it's Alan Tudyk. Okay, I'll watch it. I'll give it a chance. And then I went, okay, because I'm not usually because it has a lot of blood, a lot of gore in it, and I'm not usually into that. But I was able to kind of overwatch. But sometimes I kind of turn my head. The wood chipper thing, which I thought was a funny thing.
He just threw himself on the wood chipper.
I'm like, okay, the wood chipper's been used before, but that was a creative way to do that.
Well, it's just like when they're talking to the cop, and they're just like, we think they got a suicide pact going on, and we think that's what it is. And the cop's like, you expect me to believe that? Well, I mean, yeah.
You're two rednecks out here.
It's just like, yeah, like we are expecting you to believe that. Like, that's what. But again, it turns horror on their head. Like,
right.
It's like they are normally the bad guys in horror films, or like the redneck beer drinking guys, you know, that have a cabin that are like sneaking a peek at the girls. Like that is usually like a stereotypical
bad guy
for a horror film. And so like the fact that like he's like the lovable like guy, like when he tells him to go talk to her, and he has like a sickle. Like, you guys going camping? Like, that's not what he says. But you know what I mean? Like, he's asking if they're going to the lake, and he's got a sickle. And, like, he's just staring at her. And it's like, oh, my God. And it's just because he can't talk to girls. Because he's a shy teddy bear. Like, that movie is great. Again, another one of the many movies Knight has shown me that I had never heard of.
Yeah.
So, shout out.
So, Cabin in the Woods?
Oh, Cabin in the Woods is one of the greatest ones ever made. Again.
Our first date.
Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
Our first date was Cabin in the Woods.
That's again, subversive horror filmmaking, where the two main leads in the film are the two guys in the, I don't know where they are, the lab or whatever.
Right.
Those are the main characters, not the people that you follow.
Right.
That are going through the trials of, the horror movie tropes and stuff. It's the two people watching the whole thing, and all the people are making bets and stuff like that. It's hilarious. And I would have never thought of that in a million years,
Right.
So yeah, that really needs to be like in one of my top 10, favorite horror films of all time. It's great. It's great.
It is in mine because again, you have your monster. Like they have monsters in it. Like
Everything.
they have scary. And that's another one of those.
Everything.
It's Joss Whedon, but it's another one of those horror films that teeters the line because there are parts in that movie that legitimately scare me.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's stuff in that movie that's legitimate. Oh gosh, that would be terrifying to see or experience or whatever.
Yeah.
But the little things, where they pull back and they're partying and champagne's going, and in the background you're seeing this chick just get thrown around and just beat senseless in the background. And again, that's stuff in horror films that they zoom in on and you see too much of it, and those moments that you're supposed to be watching, they're popping champagne and high-fiving each other in an office with ties, and you're just not even seeing any of it. That stuff is just so impressive. And the whole oh, we gotta get her to take her top off. What are we gonna do? Hey, turn up the heat in that sector. Put out the pheromones. That type of stuff. You're just this is so intelligent to why they do the dumbest stuff.
Right.
In horror films.
Never have sex in a horror movie.
Yeah, because someone's controlling it. And it's they're just setting them up for failure. And they tell you that. The guy's that's not fair. No, we only put it out there. It's up to them to do it or not. That's just genius. And when, again, it was our first date, so it kind of special to me, I guess, because it was our first date. But I was I am blown away with the intelligence behind this movie. And again, I feel that movie is underrated. I feel it's underrated.
Well, I think people didn't know what to do when they got there.
Yeah.
They thought it was going to be this whole Evil Dead kind of movie,
Yeah.
and then it tosses it on its ear pretty quickly.
And it looks like the Evil Dead house.
It does. Well, and then you even have the whole the book in the stair, underneath, and you've got.
Read the Latin.
Yeah, exactly.
It's guys, I don't think we should be reading the Latin. Read the Latin. It's hearing that. And I love it that it's the drugged out guy that's supposed to be out of his mind. That's guys, I really don't think we should be down here. Don't read the Latin.
Right.
And it's we shouldn't split up. Guys, we should split up. What? What is wrong with you? Solid movie. But it's also a Joss Whedon, helped thing. He does a really good job, I think, with he does a good job at taking normal things and turning them on the head.
Right.
Like with Buffy, we knew it was going to happen. You have a cheerleader, a blonde cheerleader, that's the funny and or bimbo-ish type character who always dies first in horror films. And they said, what if she fights monsters instead?
Yep.
Which again is, Buffy is also in my top 10 for
movies, television shows. Of course, both for you, but
both. Yeah, for me, what I think is better and what I think is more what Joss Whedon was wanting with the movie is the television show. What I think is the show's a cult classic too. But again, I owned the VHS. I remember going and my dad buying me the VHS for it, and then my mom bought me the first season of the television show. So it has kind of a special place for me because again, it was. For me, it was the first time I watched a horror type movie because it came out in 96, I think, the 96, 95 area.
Yep.
So I was still very young.
And I wasn't.
Neither was that guy. But so I was still very young. And so it was the first time I watched it and I saw a girl fighting monsters and I was that is cool.
Yeah.
she's not the one that they have to rescue. Like, she's fighting monsters.
Right.
So it's kind of hard for me to pick between the movie and the show because obviously I saw the movie first.
Right.
And heard they were making a television show, and I remember, to this day, being like, that's going to be a bad television show because it doesn't have Chrissy Swanson in it.
Right.
And she's Buffy, right?
Right.
And then flipping through the channels, like one Tuesday, it was back when it was still the CW, Buffy was on Tuesdays at 7.
Or actually it was WB then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was WB, sorry.
Yeah.
I said
No,
CW,
that's all right.
But it was WB, and it was on at 7. You know, the frog, had the frog at the top hat. That's what they always showed.
Oh, wow.
Moving the cane, he's dancing around, so like that's what they always showed. So I'm flipping through. First thing I see is like a bat floating around and beating the crap out of a guy next to a locker. And then it cuts to the howl, you know, the ooh, and then the heavy guitar riff from Nerf Herder. And then I was like hooked. I was like, oh my God. And it was like, boom, like clicked immediately. And like then from then on, it was like, how was I ever concerned? Which again is technically another remake.
Well, you're concerned because usually when you take a movie and make it into a television show, it's not very good.
RoboCop.
You can go millions of them. The list is endless. Occasionally they work, and sometimes they're even better than the movie. Stargate, perfect example. I love the Stargate movie, but the Stargate SG-1 series, love it. Think it's one of the best sci-fi shows ever on. I just love that series, especially the first probably 4 seasons of that. Just awesome. So occasionally you get those,
Right.
but most of the time you don't. But Buffy was one of those where I went and saw it in the theater because I thought, well, this is different. You know, this whole concept is different. She's a slayer, and tons of famous people, and I just laughed. But there were points of it where you jumped and you're like, oh, this is actually a fun vampire thing, but it was fun. And then the whole Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, his death scene at the end, I just laughed so hard. That was
and he's like kicking the wall
in the theater. I'm just rolling.
And they both look like both characters stop and they're like, like we've got something going on over here. Like we need you to calm it down. Like.
I wonder how much of that was ad-libbed, because that's just so classic. That was great.
And they talk about it in the television show. They talk that it's like one of the lines in like one of the first, I think it's in the first episode, or first couple of episodes, they kind of talk about that she got kicked out of her last school.
Right.
Because she set the gym on fire.
Right.
And she starts to tell them because of the vandalism. And she trails off, but she was going to say because of the vampires. So she talks about it. So that's another reason why I think I like the show so much is because she did live in LA.
Right.
And she did, she burned down the school gymnasium.
And
that's
why
she got kicked out.
Reboot.
Yeah, and that's why she got kicked out.
Right.
And they she's already on like the bad list at Sunnydale. Okay, she burned it.
You're burning down the gymnasium in a school. We'll kind of get you on that bad list. I don't know. All right, moving right along. We got a few more questions, and then we'll do some of the news because we're, an hour and 40 minutes in already, guys. That's crazy. Hope people are watching on Facebook Live or still watching on YouTube.
22.
Hour and 22 minutes. Okay, so hour and 22 minutes.
Normally we'll just do like an hour-long show, but it's kind of hard with us.
Brittney and me and Keith, and then Jason here with us today. That's not going to happen.
It's the Halloween special.
I would love to say an hour, but we talk too much.
In September.
It's a Halloween
It's
special.
September 30th, though, so it's plenty of time to talk. It's close enough to talk.
September hits, and it's October for me. September hits, and it's October.
Well, if the
decorations are already up.
If you have the pumpkin, not blast, whatever it is in the 80s.
Pumpkin spice.
The pumpkin concrete at the 80s, if that's available, then it's October. So.
See, same thing. It's September, and that comes out. Oh. That comes out in September. Same with pumpkin spice flavored everything.
Yeah.
Comes out in September, so it's September is October.
It's the fall, so we'll call it the fall.
It's October Eve.
October Eve. Well, that's true. All right, zombies are very popular right now.
Yes.
Some zombie stuff's great, some of it's not. But what's your favorite zombie movie or show?
Oh, I would say zombie-wise, that's a hard one. Because over the last like 10 years or so, I've been becoming more and more accustomed to the Italian genres of film, horror films and stuff like that. And one of the big ones for me was The Beyond by Lucio Fulci.
Mm-hmm.
And The Beyond is like one of those movies that I watched it, I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. But it always stayed with me. And I always go back and think about it over and over and over again. So that was one of the, that one right there is probably my favorites. I can always go back to like, no. I'm lying. Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, yeah.
Dawn of the Dead is my favorite zombie movie. What am I talking about? That's how good The Beyond is, though. It made me forget about Dawn of the Dead.
There you go.
But Dawn of the Dead, no. That is my favorite.
Dawn of the Dead. All right.
Dawn of the Dead.
Brittney, what's yours?
So I'm not like huge into zombies.
Right.
I do love The Walking Dead though.
Right.
Like I love, and I know a lot of people think like that's like a very
Normie answer.
yeah, like it's like a very, but like I think it's so much fun. Like I love The Walking Dead. I think I like it so much because like with a lot of zombie movies, you can't sit in it. You know what I mean? Like it happens, it's over, it's done.
Right.
But like with The Walking Dead, like I feel like I'm actually preparing myself for the zombie apocalypse when I'm watching The Walking
Sure.
Dead. Like I feel like I'm learning how to survive when it ultimately happens.
Right.
Because I feel like as far as horror films are concerned, it is the most realistic scenario to me that zombies are gonna happen. Like whether it's like a chemical based thing in our food or like some weird toxin that's gonna be released in the air or in our water. Like I feel like it is the most realistic situation horror movie wise.
Right.
But if I were to go with movies, and it's one of the movies I brought that's underrated, is Freaks of Nature. I don't know if you can see it.
Freaks of Nature.
Yeah, it is actually zombies, aliens, vampires, and werewolves.
Yep.
Gotta love that. Get them all.
Yeah, and it's another one of those. It's not really scary.
It's more of a comedy.
It's a comedy, but it is so solid. And another underrated movie. It's another one of those very clever, fun movies that has really good practical effects and stuff like that. But yeah, it's called Freaks of Nature. Lots of great people in it. Like Dennis Leary's in it, and Patton Oswalt, he's in it. And a lot of like people that aren't like super big, but it's really good. It's so funny. And it's just great. But yeah, and it's got zombies in it, and they're really fun. Like, they're really fun zombies. And they all just kind of fight each other. It's just great. It's just really good. Everybody should watch Freaks of Nature. It's awesome.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's a good one.
Mine would be the original Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, yeah.
That's just, and again, I like my classic older style movies, so that one I really like. So that's probably where I would go with it. But there's a lot of good stuff. No, there's a lot of bad stuff. Have you seen Z Nation?
I saw an episode of it. I didn't hate it. Though.
Right.
It's one of those things where you just can't help but go, "Wow, this is a knockoff of Walking Dead,"
Right.
And then you just kind of
But
dismiss it.
but Sci-Fi keeps it on instead of renewing Blood Drive.
Well, have you seen any of the episodes, Brittney? Of Z Nation?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I watched it.
The
with
ones-
them. Yeah.
I'm actually on season 2 now.
Oh, so you are watching it.
So I'm watching it. I'm watching it on Netflix currently, and it has such a different tone than Walking Dead. I mean, there's some similar aspects, but then there's some crazy. They take it almost to that Robert Rodriguez value of it at times, and so there's points where I watch this and go, "Why am I watching this?" And then there's points where I'm going, "Okay, that was just fun." Okay. And sometimes you'll see things and you know they're doing it because they've heard that Walking Dead's going to put something like that in there. So they'll put something out even before Walking Dead comes out just to kind of play with you a little bit.
Right.
They got a guy named Megan with an M.
I don't think they're going to
That's
make it.
also
But now the girl with the baseball bat with the spikes, that's actually really cool. So, and she had that before Negan actually came out. So now Negan was in the comic books first. So. But yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. And again, it really depends on what you like. iZombie, you guys watch?
I do love
iZombie.
iZombie. I'm a huge fan of that show, actually.
One of
I
these
can't
days
believe
I'll
I
watch
didn't
it.
say. Yeah, I watch it. I watch it all the time. It's really great. I think it's fun. Like, I think it's a super fun show. And again, but it doesn't feel like a zombie show to me.
Right.
I don't know, like, the characters are so great, and I freaking love the two, like, main characters. I kind of want to read the comics, but I want to wait till the show is done, because I've heard it's very different. But another one of those comic book to television.
Yeah, right. A lot of horror television shows out there now. Some of them are on the streaming channels, Hulu, Netflix. Some of those are doing these shows on their own. In the last 10 years, what are you liking out of the TV area?
Just because, like, as far as horror is concerned, with the exception of Walking Dead, and I like Fear the Living Dead.
Yeah, right.
I only watched one season of it though, but
we're behind.
We're way behind.
I'm behind on that one also.
But like Supernatural, I kind of fell out of that one.
Yeah.
I liked like the first few seasons of it, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Yeah. And then everyone else is like, no, it's great, 11 seasons. And I'm like,
it's in 13 now.
13?
Yeah, they're getting ready to start 13.
Yeah, but I think this 13. Is the end, and 13 is always kind of like
a lot of Sam and Dean.
Well, I think they've got it going for next year for 14. So I read.
There's never enough Sam and Dean.
That's a lot of Sam and Dean complaining to each other.
Well,
no, it's not.
And here's what I'll come back to. The first 5 seasons are phenomenal. And I've been watching it regularly ever since. I have to admit, I watch the show. I have a good time with the show. But, sometimes you get that whole thing of, oh, here we go again. Yeah. The brothers are fighting. One of them decided to do something to save the other one or something like that. So some of the tropes are the same, but they have some interesting storylines. And some of it's kind of fun, some of the things they've added in. So I also figured I've spent so much time watching this show now. I want to write it out. Right. If I would have ended at 5, I would have been okay. The ending of 5 was phenomenal.
They ended it. I mean, they were supposed to end at 5.
Right.
Like
they were. That was the ending.
Yeah, they shot 2 endings for it in case they decided to renew them again. And so, granted, I will give you, I think season 6 is their weakest season.
Yeah. Because
I think they were trying to find that balance back.
Right.
And then once you get to 7, I feel like it gets pretty solid again. Like, I feel like 6 is a little shaky because it was like, where do we go when we decided to end it?
Right.
Kind of thing.
I thought last season was actually pretty good on it.
I love Sam and Dean. I love Dean so much. I'll watch. I don't care. They want to go to 20 seasons. I'll just keep watching.
Sam and Dean visually don't do much for me, but
not even the visuals. Not even just the visuals. I mean, like, I love Dean's personality. Like, the crap that comes out of Dean's mouth is amazing.
He's a stereotypical bad boy. He is, and he says what he wants to say, and he does what he wants to do. The car is awesome, and I did love what they did for the for San Diego, where they did where they're going to go out and do their show. Did you see that? So they show up to San Diego, and they have this whole blurb like, that's actually Sam and Dean. They're doing it in character. They go to get in the car to talk about going to San Diego. We do this every year. And they're making it almost sound like it's because of the book series, the Supernatural book series. And so they get in the car, and then Carry On My Wayward Son starts playing.
Right. And then my favorite time of year is their season finale and seeing the road so far and just hearing that guitar solo, and then it goes into that song. It's like my favorite thing to watch.
Well, and you have that. It's not just even the end one anymore. Sometimes it's the beginning episode, the first one. And anytime there's an important episode, they'll put that in there. So now you're getting it multiple times a year. But if you didn't know this, the curtain raises up for the panel. Kansas is there.
Oh, I did see that. I didn't watch it, but I saw that they were with them.
Well, if you go out, because there's footage. So there's footage of it where people were videotaping it live, and nobody knew Kansas was going to be there. Curtain raises, and they're playing the music live. You're like, oh, that's so cool. that phenomenal. So
and it's like, I didn't like that song until Supernatural.
Really?
Now
More Kansas fan?
No, and just like hearing it, it's just like I correlate it with Supernatural.
It is. It has become. If you hear that song and you are a geek, you typically associate that song with that.
Yeah, I look around. I'm just like, uh-oh.
Crap's about to happen.
Yeah, what's happening?
And the problem is you're female, and that's not usually good for that show.
Right, yeah, we've got a lot.
Every good female character they have, they've killed. Now they have
like Joe and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, that was sad.
Spoiler alert.
Now
Again, it's been on for like 13 years now. You should be caught up to at least the Joe dying stuff.
those were the traumatic episodes for me.
Yeah,
I'm
they
like,
are.
what?
Oh my gosh, like
So-
being torn apart by like a hellhound.
Yes.
That's
Well,
intense, man.
now the two sheriffs are getting their own spin-off series,
We'll see. We'll see.
and
how it goes.
with the girls. So I actually am hopeful that'll be cool because that actually sounds like fun. But
We'll see.
that's kind of sidetracked. Okay, so anything else you're liking TV or streaming wise? Like I just watched, or even if it's streaming for a movie, I just watched a Death Note on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I'm starting to watch the
show?
cartoon first.
Yeah, that would have been smart, but I didn't do that. I had it there, and I watched the movie. I enjoyed that. I'm enjoying some of that stuff.
Yep.
Well, and they canceled it, but Scream Queens.
Yes,
The first,
yes.
Oh, I forgot about Scream
the
Queens. The first season of that.
season of Scream Queens, again, is another one of those crazy lightning in the bottle, innovative, like, writing
Right.
styles.
The whole lawnmower over the
Oh my
heads,
gosh,
and yeah.
that's so great. What did you say? Like, what did you say? They're like, like just screaming, not saying anything. Oh, jeez,
Yes,
that's good.
Scream Queens was really good. I forgot about that one.
Have you guys watched Penny Dreadful?
Oh, I love it. I haven't seen the last season, but
I
I
saw
love
one
it.
episode or two, and I didn't really care for it.
It's kind of
Get out
stylist.
No.
It
I
has
liked
a
it.
stylistic view and kind of it's interesting.
I liked it.
I-
I love you.
I've watched. I'm on the last season. I've not watched the other. Walking Dead, Stranger Things, of course, is getting ready to hit second
Yeah.
season,
Yeah, that was a good.
which is I think is phenomenal. I love how it really brings in that '80s feel. It feels like a combination of a Stephen King and Steven
Oh,
Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And season 2 just looks awesome. Where they're at the arcade.
And the kids, again, like those kids are so solid.
They
I
are.
don't understand how, like, most adults can't act. Like,
No,
I
no.
don't get how these kids can do it.
I
And the
would
kid
watch.
Richie, the kid that's in Stranger Things, one of the kids, he plays Richie in it, and again, like, blows my mind. Like, it just blows my mind
Totally different. person.
how great they are and how different he is from one to the next. Yeah, Stranger Things is also really great.
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
looking. I'm really
And
looking forward to
again, I'm
that.
not a big horror person, but I just totally got zoned in on that. That was my favorite thing on Netflix last year. I loved that. That was
But it's another one of those really good storytelling.
right. It was.
Again, if you, like you were saying before,
Mm-hmm.
if you take the horror elements out,
Right.
you still have a strong story
Right.
because your characters are so interesting and so fun, and like the time frame it's in. And come on, they're in Ghostbusters.
Mhm.
They're
Right,
Ghostbusters
right.
like costumes, and it's Halloween. Like it's
Right.
gonna be like a Halloween episode. Anything that's starting their season out like a Halloween episode, I'm in.
It so reminds me of E.T.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's such an E.T. feel to it, and I love that.
Throwback to all the classics.
Exactly. Well, and the monster's interesting. That whole upside down world.
Yeah.
I find that all interesting, and I like monsters, so that's
Yeah.
probably part of it.
Monsters are cool.
Bates Motel. You guys watch any of that?
We saw like the first 2 seasons?
Yeah, and then we just, again, it was like one of those, it's the same thing with American Horror Story. You know, like we watched like the first
Yeah.
season of like both
Mhm.
and really liked them. Because again, like horror is, that's our thing. Like that's something that we both really, really like. To where there's some of the stuff he likes and I'll watch them, you know, but like horror, it's just we really like horror stuff. It's the same thing. Like we watched Bates Motel, we liked it. It was strong
Yeah, it was good.
storytelling.
There's
no
It was
complaints.
fun. Yeah, same thing with American Horror Story. And it's like every time we see previews for one of them, it's like we should get back into that. Like because it looks so fun.
Mhm.
And it's like we just don't have time. And
Right. There's
it's
so
not
much
because we're
good stuff.
super popular.
There is.
It's just there's so much out there and
Yeah.
like life gets in the way.
Right. Exactly. Wait till you have kids, that gets worse. But
We have a dog.
and
That's it.
yeah.
And
The,
she's a handful.
I bet she is.
Shout out
But she
Harley.
probably doesn't. You probably don't have to watch what you're watching with her. So
She gets
you
scared.
know.
She gets scared. She
All I can
hides
say is my wife, who I love my wife. My wife is wonderful. If you're watching, honey, I love you. But she's very protective of our kids on what they watch, and even watching the Goldbergs. And I can watch 3 or 4 episodes, and they won't say a single curse word. As soon as my kids walk in the room on an episode, there's this whole lineage of curse words that come out of their
She's
mouth.
like a naked
And then-
person,
and
like
then-
randomly
well,
walks
not
up.
on
You're
a
like, what just
Goldberg.
happened?
Exactly.
You're like, what just happened? This never happens on the show. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what to
And
tell
so, and so then my wife's like, why are you watching them around the kids? So I gotta be careful. But
you.
anyway,
You gotta be careful.
Let's see, what else do we have? What's your guys' favorite horror books?
Books?
Books.
I Am Legend. I Am Legend is my favorite. That's like subversive horror. Really. Once if you don't know the story, spoiler alert. But the idea that what's his name is the monster the whole time just blows my mind.
Will Smith. Do you mean Will Smith?
Oh, no. That was not. That was Action Movie Man in Mummy 3 or something. Those were the mummies from the Mummy movies. Awful. But the idea of him being the monster the whole time, like everything that he was doing, he's doing to keep himself alive, and he looks at the world as monsters, but the world looks at him as the monster. It's like the person is the monster, and it just blows your mind.
Like Scooby-Doo.
And whenever they try to make like a movie out of it or something, they always lose that aspect.
Right.
They try to kind of make an action movie out of it, like the Mega Man. I like that movie, but it's not a very good movie. I just like it because Charlton Heston's in it.
Right.
That's it. But they don't get it. They don't. It's a much more subversive, subtle film that they need to make. It's not big action and stuff. It's subtle and down to earth and grounded and personal. It's not big over the top explosion stuff. So you'll never really get that made well. But that book is Richard Matheson's I Am Legend is my favorite.
That's a great answer. You have a book?
Well, it's not. I don't know if it really counts as like a horror. Like it's monsters, I guess.
Well,
monsters.
I put that in part of the horror genre. A piece of it.
I love the Anita Blake books.
Oh yeah.
It's another black hair, short, pale individual that is called the Executioner, even though she's so tiny.
Right.
And she kills vampires and lichens and all different kinds of were animals are in it, and the author is Laurel K. Hamilton, and she's based out of St. Louis, so the books are written in St. Louis, and she goes to Branson in a book, and so it's they talk about the Fox Theater and stuff like that, so it's it's cool because it's I've been to these places,
right?
So it's really neat, and I'm a huge vampire fan. I love vampires and werewolves and monsters like that. I love it. But that's probably my favorite book series that's monster-wise. My dad just finished it, and he says that I would probably like it. He thinks that's a really good book. He said it's too long, but he said he really liked that one. So I'm probably going to read that.
Stephen King, there you go. Because the books are always better than the movies with Stephen King. So
my dad said he still really enjoyed the new one.
All right, the new movie. Yeah.
He said he liked it better than
the television.
He doesn't.
Well, I'm sure it's better. I need to watch it. I have such a soft spot for the original.
Right.
Because I was pumped to watch that, and so it still has that place of nostalgia in my heart.
Right.
The new movie is a lot more effective, and I'm afraid that the old movie won't, hold up.
Well, it was made for television.
It was made for television.
So that there's a little bit of that. I've got a friend of mine. She's big into the original movie. She won't go see the new one because of her love for the original. Right. She didn't think it needed to be remade, which again, it kind of depends on the person. And,
right.
She just and she also told me some interesting stuff about Tim Curry. Tim Curry got the part in the original It because originally he was up for the role of Joker in Batman and was denied the role because he was too scary.
Oh, wow.
And so they're like, well,
I think Jack Nicholson's pretty scary though.
Well, he is, but it's a different type of.
Best clown.
It's a different type of scary.
Best clown, hands down.
I'm with you. We often disagree on the Batman stuff, but the Batman movie with Jack, we're both hurt.
Come on.
If you're gonna go with a smile.
Gosh, that guy. My favorite line is still, life's been good to me. It's with a stupid grin. Life's been good to me.
It's hard to keep inside the lines.
Right? God, he's solid. He is just I mean, I almost kind of wish he could be the Joker again. Like,
That would be awesome.
just bring that guy back.
If they could redo that would be phenomenal.
Oh gosh, I love Jack. Clowns
Back.
scare me. Clowns scare me, but Jack Nicholson, like, and I remember being afraid of him when I was a kid. Like, I remember watching that Batman movie at my grandma's. Like, it was like on HBO. Yeah. I remember watching it and like being glued to the TV because I just love the bright color. I mean, the purples and the greens and the oranges and the lipstick, and like he was so scary, but like there was something about him I just couldn't stop watching. And I'm afraid of clowns, but it's just like I wanted to be Joker. Like, that's why I love Harley Quinn so much. Because again, we've talked about
female Joker version. Yeah,
it felt like just a female version of Joker. So like I was like, yep, like I'm sold because you're just like Joker, but you're a girl.
Maybe even a little more crazy. So
yeah, she is. She's a little bit more crazy. I think she's crazy.
She's less psychotic than.
I think she's crazier because the fact that like he knows he's crazy. Like I feel like Joker knows he's crazy, and he's fine with it. But like I feel like she's scarier because she doesn't know that she's crazy. She feels like this is the norm. Like that it's okay.
No, she does. I mean, she was a psychiatrist before, so I think she realizes she's crazy, and I think that kind of freaks her out because of her background, knowing. I don't know.
I like Margot Robbie's take that she thinks Harley has multiple personalities.
That's very possible.
And one of them is a psychiatrist, and then one of them is this crazy person that's in love with the Joker, and that they're always talking in her head.
I could completely see that with her. Right. That's an interesting take on her.
Good job, Margot.
Exactly. I will give that to her for sure.
Right.
So yeah.
I think she's a solid Harley.
I like her Harley. I'm okay with that. I didn't like the Joker in that movie, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it
later. Because that could go on for another hour.
Right.
All right. Favorite vampire movie?
Well, obviously From Dusk Till Dawn.
It's really hard. That's really hard because I'm a huge From Dusk Till Dawn fan. Like I love that movie. Another movie my dad showed me when I was really young. But it's really hard for me not to say Buffy.
Yeah. Right.
Just because that's what I saw first.
Right.
I saw Buffy first.
Right.
And it's kind of what made me really like vampires.
Right.
So I'd probably have to say.
Right. Well, and there are, Buffy. I mean, I could probably give you 10 that I think are just awesome. My favorite, and this is because I'm a child of the 80s, Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lost Boys are my favorite. So.
I also watched that on TBS and TNT all the time and had to sit on my bed because I was afraid they were going to grab me.
Right.
Like, that's another movie I shouldn't have been watching at the age I was watching it at.
Well, I like I said, Brides of Dracula.
Yeah, right.
And Horror of Dracula is another one that just, Christopher Lee as the Dracula is just amazing. A different take, not very subtle. He's kind of over the top.
Right.
And it's fantastic. He actually is very scary. I forget the guy who did play the vampire in Brides of Dracula. I forget his name, but he was fantastic too. Like I was disappointed the first time I saw Brides of Dracula. Like, oh, Christopher Lee is not in this movie. That's terrible. But then that other guy just blew me away. He is just the eyes are just bloodshot, red, magnificent.
Sorry that we're film people and we did not say Nosferatu.
Oh well, yeah.
Sorry. It's still great. I mean, that's a great movie, but sorry. I guess I should have been like kind of pretentious and been like, Nosferatu. That is what my favorite is.
You don't have to be pretentious with this. Just tell us what your favorite.
Or Bram Stoker's Dracula. In all honesty, that's actually the first vampire movie I ever watched. Like with the monsters and stuff like that. Again, another movie I saw way too young because I was at my grandparents' house.
Pretty seductive movie.
Yeah, I shouldn't have watched
sensual,
it. Yeah. I shouldn't have watched it. But I was at my grandparents' house, and every morning I would wake up, and this is why I hate MASH, but I would wake up, and my grandpa would be asleep in his chair, and MASH would be going over, and the Munsters would be coming on.
Yeah, right.
So and that's another reason why I like the stuff I like, is I watch the Munsters every morning.
Munsters are great.
5. Yeah. Because I don't know why, but I had nightmares a lot, so I woke up, and I would go and sit, and I would watch the Munsters and fall asleep. So one morning I come out and the HBO was on, and so it wasn't MASH going off, Munsters coming on. It was Bram Stoker's Dracula. And that's what I watched instead. And if you haven't seen it, I'll tell you right now, a 6 to 7-year-old shouldn't be watching
Should not be watching it at all.
He was asleep though. He didn't know.
That doesn't make it better.
He didn't know. I woke up way too early. Way too early.
Let me say, having read the book and watched the movie, that would be so much better. The book is so horrible. I'm so sorry.
It's long. It is boring.
And it just keeps going back. There was like 8 chapters of she's about to die. Let's give her a blood transfusion and come back. Oh my gosh!
Let her go. Let her go.
I thought I was going to do something really cool and branch out and go read some classic stuff, and that book just killed me. Yeah. I'm like, why didn't I pick Frankenstein, or why didn't I pick something other than Dracula? Yes. Oh my gosh!
It's almost like a found footage film when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
It's all diaries.
It is. Yeah. That's actually a cool concept. I kind of like the diary part, but it never goes anywhere. Right. And then the killing at the end, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's all it is. It's very like he's in a box.
And in the movie,
I was so let down.
It's like in the movie, it's like awesome.
It is. I agree.
And Gary is just, hands down. Just
it's funny though. The movie's better than the book.
It doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. And that's probably because we're not used to that style.
Right.
That style at the time, that was considered trash novel. Yeah. It was. That was considered really racy, kind of out there, very racy. Yeah. And I read it, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
The movie is actually pretty racy.
It is. Well, the movie is very racy.
That one,
the werewolf scene. That's really intense and weird. Like, I don't know why that's in there.
I don't know, but I liked it. I saw it and I liked it.
I like werewolves, but I was just like, I don't know what is happening right now.
Talking about vampires and werewolves, Underworld is probably one of my favorite ones also.
I love Underworld, but I don't like the CG they use, but like they, again, to start out, were doing practical effects. Like they had dudes in these huge built suits, and it was awesome and scary, and it's like, that's cool. And then they got money, and they said, oh, let's just CG it when the suits look better. I
think if you use CGI right, and you use it in corporation with practical effects, which is what they're trying to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, if you enhance it,
right. Different. I think that's kind of the key, is to make sure you're doing both. You can't rely on CG to do everything. Yeah. But if you use it properly, it can make something look really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. So, the technology is up there now to where so much looks realistic. It really does.
It does, yeah.
You can't beat seeing, like, especially if you watch the behind the scenes stuff to Underworld, you can't beat seeing a dude that's on stilts that's like over 8 feet tall with a huge muzzle. Like you can't beat that though, in my opinion. Like being able like have an actor or like from a director standpoint actually having a giant monster on set with you.
Right, rather than just pretending.
There's nothing that beats that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Jeez.
All right, that's all I've got. Any further questions, Brittney?
I don't have any further questions. Are we going to do news after this?
We are going to do news, which
okay. I don't have any further questions. I've been waiting for...
No further questions, Your Honor?
Yeah.
All right. Jason, thank you for being our guest, our first guest ever on Titans of Fantastic, and we hope you come back again. We will probably need to make this a yearly thing with Halloween to talk. So we appreciate your time, and we thank you for being a guest host with us. So we're going to go on the news, so add in anything you want to talk about here, and we've got some news items, but we can talk about whatever we need to here. All right.
I'm just going to sit here and smile politely.
Well, please add more in.
Yeah,
so Brittney, you've been dying to talk about a piece of news that you shared with me earlier.
Yes. Okay. So I'm super, super excited because they're doing a new Halloween movie.
Yay.
Don't take it away from me. And Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be Laurie Strode.
So Jamie Lee Curtis returns.
What? Yeah. So what they're kind of saying now is that this is actually going to reset stuff. Everybody likes doing that. But so essentially this is going to be Halloween 3.
Maybe.
Whatever.
Maybe. They might do the H2O mess up.
I don't think so.
Where
don't listen to that guy.
They make a sequel to the first one, but then they start playing off the events of part 2, which got thrown out.
they've released a statement saying that it is after Halloween 2. That has been the statement that the director released, that is going to be after Halloween 2, that she is Laurie Strode. It's supposed to be 4 decades after the original Halloween, which when it comes out will be 4 decades since the original was released. They released a nice little picture. She's on the same porch from the original movie. She's in the same clothes, and Michael's in the doorway behind her.
The house burned down in part 2.
Cold chills. I got
But they
cold
rebuilt
chills.
it.
I'm lying. That didn't happen.
Don't listen to anything after for the news portion. Don't listen to anything he has to say. But I am super excited because again I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Like
Yes.
she's the Scream Queen, even though technically, if we got down to brass tacks, Danielle Harris has more horror film credits than Jamie Lee does. But for the original Scream Queen aspect, from like who was dubbed that first, I'm so excited that she's back. I love it that she's playing Laurie Strode. I'm kind of excited to see where they take it with having her back. Are they going to say that they're really related still? Who knows? I don't know any of that stuff. Is she going to be a parent to somebody again? I don't know. But I'm excited that she came back. I think it's really cool to have her back as Laurie, and she's not crazy. Because that's what I don't like about Resurrection. I don't like it that she was in a crazy house. Like, I didn't like any of that stuff. I'm hoping they keep her kind of more like the Sydney character from Scream, where she's very, like, besides Scream 3, because she's a weaker character in that one. But, like, having that, I had this horrible thing happen, but I'm, like, stronger for it. It's what I'm kind of hoping they do with her. So we'll see. So, I mean, that's something I was, like, super excited about. That's the big horror news anyways right now, is that Jamie Lee's back for Halloween.
Awesome news. So that's really cool to bring her back. Interestingly, they bring her back as a older actress to play this role, and you don't see a whole lot of that happen.
Not in horror, especially not in horror films.
No, not in horror films, but not in films at all. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of that. But very similarly, also this week they announced Linda Hamilton is back in Terminator 6.
And it's like
Sarah Connor returns.
And I think that's cool because I like her. However, I don't think they should be making any more Terminator movies. Like, I'm to the point with them Terminator movies that I'm just like, I don't know why it's different for me in horror films. Horror films feel different. I feel like I should expect multiples and multiples of those. But like with Terminator, I just don't feel like there's any more story to tell. To me, the only story they can tell that they continue to say they're going to tell is after it's happened and we're rebuilding or something. It's like we've never actually had this war happen, right?
Right.
No, actually, they did in the
they were
the pseudo reboot.
The Salvation was the
Salvation,
prequel.
right?
It was a prequel to Terminator 2 because it's the only prequel that takes place in the future.
Right.
But they were going to make like a trilogy, I believe, because they were going to do a thing where it's like the first film was going to be the setup for the future war, and then the future war is going to happen, and they're probably going to end it with Kyle Reese going back in time to start it all over again.
And just time travel just gives me a headache. Time travel just gives me a headache.
But the Salvation didn't do too well, so they had to rethink their strategy, I guess.
And I enjoyed Salvation. I actually kind of liked it.
Is that the one with
Avatar?
Jai Courtney in it?
Mr. Avatar was
Oh, no, I don't like that one. I like the one with Jai Courtney.
That was the last one.
Yeah, number 5, yeah.
I liked that one.
That was an interesting take on it. I found that interesting, which
that was another
they did
reboot.
ruin, but they did ruin the whole entire movie with their trailer.
Well, isn't it funny?
Like they showed you.
It's actually very ironic because the whole point of the Terminator is to kill John Connor, and what happens in that movie? They kill John Connor and prevent him from coming back. So like they changed the timeline totally. And that's supposed to be like a new trilogy of Terminator films. So they actually killed John Connor off. And I don't think they realized what they did when they made that.
And it's like,
movie.
they shouldn't have shown that. Like, that's something we were talking about. Like, how mind-blowing would that scene have been? Like, when they shoot him or whatever. Like, how mind-blowing would that scene have been if you hadn't been shown that in the trailer? Like, I would have been like...
Well, it's not even that. It's not like literally killing him on screen. It's like they change the timeline now
Right.
to where he's not going to get born.
Right.
And I'm like, you guys I don't think you guys realize what you did. You know, it's like, I don't think you realize that you just killed John Connor off. And I'm going to have to rewrite it somehow, but apparently they're just going to check those out. And Halloween, you know, like, you know, what they did with Halloween with Laurie Strode, they're going to do it with Linda Hamilton now.
Well, they've got like 3 or 4 different timelines going. Because you've also got the Sarah Connor Chronicle, Terminator timeline.
I
love that. That was...
Yeah, especially that first season, like what they were doing with, like having the female Terminator, but she was like reprogrammed. Like I thought that was really cool, like watching her try to adjust to society and like her learning, because that's like again what's so scary about Skynet is like the technology learning how to do things. And so like this person that's supposed to be a good guy, it's like, well, crap, is she going to be a bad guy? Because she's like learning how to be human. Which is like terrifying. It's like you should not be teaching the robots to be human. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, there's a balance because you don't want them to go necessarily non-human. Because if they have no emotions or just logically looking at things, wouldn't they eventually feel like humanity is just a pest for them? And so you would have that level. But then if you teach them emotions and then they tap into those negative emotions, and you also have that. So the whole idea of AI is pretty scary. So.
Like the episode that she winks at him, like when she tricks somebody and like turns around, she's like, wink. And he's like, oh God. Like, he's like, we're in so much trouble because she just lied. And it's like, she's not supposed to be able to lie. Great. Like, we're doomed. Everybody's dead. Like, fabulous.
Exactly. We may have just killed ourselves.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I think it's cool. Again, I think it's cool that these older actresses are kind of coming back to like their roots essentially. But I'm just kind of over the Terminator thing, and I hate that because I like the original too.
Yes.
But you know, it feels again like one of those franchises that they're just trying to suck dry. You know, and it's getting to where people like are not liking the originals. Because of, like, it's just like, well, it's hard to like the originals when there's 55 million of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? But again, like, with Halloween, to me, there's been enough time passed for the originals, not Rob Zombie stuff. But, like, to me, it feels like there's been enough time passing to be able to do this. Where with Terminator, it's like, I feel like we just had one of those. Like, a year ago is what it feels like.
We just had one.
Was it like a year, 2 years, maybe? Like 2.5 at the most? You know, it's like, so to me, it's just like, if this would have happened, like Salvation and then this, like, I feel like there would have been enough time between where you're looking at like more of like a 5 to 6 year time period, possibly, versus like a 2.
Well, they want to keep making their money off of it.
Right.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Now, if you do it well, as we said, especially the first season, but I enjoyed the second season of the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I think there's something here you can use. Will you tap into it and make a good movie with it? And how do you explain Sarah Connor returning when supposedly she died before the third one?
And like, she died like.
But if you change the timeline, as you've mentioned, then maybe she doesn't die.
I think if I understand it correctly, this new one is going to be a direct sequel to Part 2. They're throwing out 3, 4, and 5.
Right. That's kind of what I understood too. Yeah.
So.
Which you could have. You could have that. Well, especially if the Sarah Connor Chronicles happen, then you can throw out 3, 4, and 5 because they don't really happen. So I don't know. Interesting. I'm actually interested to see what will happen. I don't know if it'll be good. It may suck, but I like.
They'll make a lot of.
Robots.
I mean, they'll make a lot of money because it's
will.
Terminator.
Right.
I mean, it's the same. I mean, it's the same thing with. I mean, like with the Halloweens and stuff like that. They'll make their money back.
Right.
Because people just have a nostalgia for it, and people want to see horror films. People want to see slashers, and it doesn't matter if it's
people want to see robots trying to kill people.
Yeah, it's like the 55 millionth. They don't care.
I'll watch that.
Me too.
I'll watch it. Yeah, we'll watch Terminator regardless.
We'll watch it.
Earlier we were talking about Netflix. Netflix, of course, Return of Stranger Things with season 2 happens the 27th of October. So looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm super excited. When the first one happened, I was off on vacation. So I got back from vacation on Saturday. It premiered on Friday. I got back on Saturday. Before I went to work on Monday, I'd watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
I couldn't help it. I just was like,
2 days. It was 2 days for us.
So I we got home Saturday night, and I turned it on, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I better go to bed. And then I got up, and then I went, oh, okay, go to church. Okay, oh, there's another episode. Oh, okay, here's another episode. So I'm excited for it because it's just one of those cool things.
Yeah.
But also on Netflix, coming later in 2017, unknown when, Marvel's Punisher.
Yes. I'm kind of excited about it.
So you're a big Punisher fan.
I'm a big Punisher fan, and that's probably my biggest problem is because I am. And so this is that one thing where I'm like very picky about.
Right.
And I'm watching the trailer for this thing, and I'm getting those weird Thomas Jane Punisher vibes from it. And I don't like the fact that he's killing like CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, soldiers, U.S. soldiers. That's kind of a turnoff. And the fact that the story is centered around the death of his family is also, I find, unoriginal. You know, the Punisher is Paul Kersey from Death Wish. He's a guy who's experienced crime. He's lost his family because of it. Mm-hmm. And so that drives him to go out and punish evildoers, you know?
Right.
So this kind of does the same thing that the Thomas Jane Punisher did, which was once you kill the people that are responsible, what do you do then?
Right.
What drives you after that? And so you kind of come up with another kind of like half-hearted excuse to continue on to punish bad guys and kill them.
Well, in the comics, they make that transition because they focused a long time on him trying to come up with punishing the people that kill his family, but in the meantime, he was taking care of punishing other criminals. Mm-hmm. Even where his first appearance is against Spider-Man because he sees that the bugle saying Spider-Man's a menace and tries to kill Spider-Man. Right. So, which I had that issue as a little kid, read the cover off of it, tore it up, don't have it any longer.
Oh.
Knight's got it.
Yeah, I got it.
It's part of my Holy Grail once. Yes. So anyway.
I think they should just do another season of Jessica Jones.
They're going to.
I want it now, though.
I'm pretty excited. I'm going to stay excited for the Punisher until it comes out and watch it.
I think so far I've not been unhappy with the way Netflix has handled the Marvel stuff. I mean, there's certain things that are better than others. The Daredevil, I think, is probably the best of the series, but Jessica Jones is very solid. So it's Luke Cage. I enjoyed Iron Fist. I know some people didn't.
I love Iron Fist.
Yeah, and I think Luke Cage is one of their weaker ones.
Oh, yeah.
I think Luke Cage, like, I just don't like what they did with it. He did not feel like the same character that we saw in Jessica Jones. Like, and it was like...
They really took him back to his core of what the comics had him as.
And then I guess I just wouldn't like the comics. I was disappointed with that.
The comics are really black exploitation films in comic books with him trying to beat the man. Right. And then finding other people that were causing problems for people of Harlem. So, I mean, it really took the tone of the original comics. Now, it brought it back around where I think it was this whole, here's this guy, now we're going to put him in this situation to, these things are happening just kind of like what it did in the comics. So I enjoyed that, knowing the history of the comics, that this was very much what he did in the comics back in the day.
Yeah, it's been my least.
Yeah, I can see that.
I thought the show started off really good. And then it's about like 3 or 4 episodes in, it kind of died for me. Like it just got slow for some reason.
Yeah, it just gets slower right there.
And then at the end, when
but not slow in a good way. Like it can be slow in a good way, but it got slow in a bad way. Fast.
I wasn't like hooked anymore.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got better towards the end, but it just lost me in the middle.
And I love him in Jessica Jones. You know, I love that character in Jessica Jones. I love him in the Defenders. You know what I mean? Like but like to me, their 2 weakest is Luke Cage and the Defenders to me, were their 2 weakest kind of outings. But like I like seeing them together in Defenders. Like I died laughing so hard with Jessica Jones being with Daredevil.
Right.
Like those 2 together kill me. Like that stuff. In my thing, I loved the Defenders because I loved seeing all of the roles, not just the main group, but seeing the lawyers come in and seeing seeing all of these people.
And it's in a small area in New York, so it's not like their worlds wouldn't collide like this. So this actually felt like it would probably happen.
Right.
I mean, you're going to see something like this happen. So I enjoyed it also. I thought it was a lot of fun. The scene with Jessica Jones driving the car through, miss me?
Right.
Killed me.
Well, in the like the, can I borrow your scarf? And
Yeah.
they're like making fun of him. They're like, she's like, can I have my scarf back? And he's like, not like right now. Like you can't. You know,
Aren't
like
you
just
blind?
yeah, and then just that stuff. Like when he's like, I still smell the lights, or I hear or I see neon or something. He says something about the neon lights, and they're like, what? And she's like, they're like, isn't he blind? She's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm starting to think he's not. Like, you know, like just
Right.
that stuff. Like,
Right.
because they're like, who are you? Like everybody else is like seeing their faces.
Right.
Except for them. They're like, look, dude, we know who everybody is but you. And we're real uncomfortable about it. Like, I thought it was pretty clever.
I thought it was great. So, yeah. But I'm looking forward to Punisher. I'm not the world's biggest Punisher fan. And probably because my exposure to Punisher has usually been at the hands of trying to kill somebody that Spider-Man's trying to save.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's...
He's always like a villain.
He's definitely an anti-hero. Which is interesting because Marvel actually kind of set those anti-heroes, a Punisher and Wolverine out there in comic books because as far as post stuff with the comic code, because you had some of that in the olden days before the comic code. The comic code came in, and DC really kind of stepped up their game to play by the certain rules. And Marvel started introducing these characters like Punisher and Wolverine that would go out and kill people that really weren't supposed to do, because heroes are supposed to be best buddies and play together, and they didn't. So Punisher is one of those interesting characters, and I have an appreciation for him, but I'm interested to see what they do, because I'm like, okay, let's do something fun with him. So I anticipate they will. We'll see. All right. Well, we talked about that too. Marvel, also in other news, is launching in their comics the Marvel Legacy. And I know you guys were DC guys, but this is basically Marvel's version of Rebirth. Basically what it is. It's taking the characters and bringing them back to what they originally were. If you don't know...
Because it's like what they're doing right now is just
awful. It's not working for them.
And
there's certain comics that's working really well. There's certain things that I'm reading in Marvel, fantastic. Miss Marvel, Black Widow, the Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, those things are working phenomenal.
See, and I think so many of them are just going too political. And
Right,
I'm sorry,
right.
I
Agreed.
don't read comics, and I know not all. I mean, I know some of them have political stuff in it, and like agendas and stuff like that, and same with movies. But it's like, I don't read comics, I don't watch television shows, and I don't watch movies because I want to hear people's like political views. You know, it's like I'm wanting to escape.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I want to escape. Like I'm reading about a superhero. It's like I want to escape into that world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and so like some of their stuff right now is just so political. Like it's like some of it you can't even get through because it's just so political. And like I don't know. Like it's just I just think that's dangerous. I think that's dangerous to
So Marvel's bringing back the original Captain America, the original Iron Man, the original Hulk is going to be back. You're going to have the original Thor, all which have been replaced by other people.
Right.
So now you're getting those original people back, part of the legacy. You're also having the return of two characters that have been dead, one of them for quite a while in the Marvel Universe, both being X-Men. We've got the return of Wolverine, who was killed off about 5 years ago. So the original Wolverine will be back, not just in Old Man Logan, but in a current issue. So X-23 will become herself again, and Wolverine will be Wolverine.
And that's how it should,
Right.
that's how it should be. I mean, I don't know why you make her a Wolverine. Just let her be X-23.
I don't know, because they felt like they needed a Wolverine. They had a Wolverine
But
comic,
it's
so
like
they
they
needed...
don't kill him.
Well, they've had other people be
geez.
Superman when Superman...
Right? And it's like, but why? And it's like, I'm just like, don't. I mean, don't
Just
do it.
Just don't put out those
Yeah,
issues.
don't do it. Just
Right.
don't do it. I mean, if you want to kill him and start something new, start something new with the same dude. Because it's like, that's what people want. People want Superman. They don't want a guy posing as Superman.
Right. No, I will say a few years ago when Captain America was dead, before he came back to life and became old. And anyway,
You can't explain comics to people. It just takes too long.
It does.
Because everybody dies.
When Bucky was Captain America, that was actually really good. Bucky did a great Captain America. And I've read really good things about Falcon being a really good Captain America. I have not read that, and has nothing to do with his race. It just has to do with I wasn't reading it. I've collected enough that I can't read everything.
It's just hard. They just put so much.
They do, and some of it's really good, and some of it's not.
It's just hard.
Marvel's been facing some stuff that's not been as good. So, and Thor has been somebody else,
a
female. Yeah, it's what's her name from the movie? His love interest,
Natalie Portman.
Well, right, Natalie Portman's character.
And I'm a girl, and I'm telling you, don't do that.
But she was worthy, and he wasn't at that point.
But don't do that.
Odin's son wasn't worthy, so he's worthy again.
Just make a new girl comic book character.
I agree.
There's plenty of them. Like, there's plenty of them out there.
There's some really good ones out there.
You don't just have to, like, you know what we need? We need a girl Thor.
Right.
And it's like, why? No, we don't.
Well,
I'm a girl telling you that we don't need that. I don't want to see a girl Thor. I want to see Thor.
If you made a really good Valkyrie comic book, I would read that.
Right.
Because Valkyrie is an awesome female character of Norse legend, and she's awesome in the Defenders since the 70s. She's been awesome. But if you made a really good comic of her, people would read it. So
it just kills me.
But anyway, so Marvel's kind of learned, kind of what DC learned, that sometimes going in and just changing a bunch of crap just to change it doesn't work. So they're relaunching, pseudo relaunching. We'll see what it is. But I'm hopeful that things will get kind of righted. I'm more of a Marvel guy, as you see from my shirt. But
I'm wearing a Hocus Pocus shirt.
She is wearing a Hocus Pocus shirt.
That my best friend got me.
That's awesome.
Shout out.
So anyway. That was my spiel on Legacy. So if you're interested, check out Legacy. Jean Grey is back. That was the other one. Yes, the original Jean Grey. There's been a different Jean Grey from the past that's been moved to the present from a time travel thing, which Brittney would love because it's time travel.
It hurts my head.
See, I love time travel.
Time travel just hurts my head.
Give me some good
I feel like
future.
I feel like if I go back in the past and I were to take this pin, that pin essentially should like ripple effect and screw everything up because I've taken something from the past into the future. I don't want to talk about it. It hurts my head.
Butterflies.
Yeah, it hurts my head. I can't do it.
So I love when you actually have the consequences from those things. So.
Here's my head. I am excited that Jean Grey is coming back. I'm not excited about them doing Dark Phoenix in the movies. Not excited about that because I feel like it's going to be messed up. But I do love Jean Grey, like the character. So I'm glad she's coming back to the comics.
If you can do Jean Grey correctly, if you did...
And that girl's so good. That Sophia, like, she's a great Jean Grey. I'm not saying anything about her. It's just... I know they're not going to do it right. They've done it wrong already.
Fox has already messed it up.
They've done it wrong multiple times.
You're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't blame you for that. But yes.
Was it Famke? I don't know how you say her name.
Famke Janssen.
Is that how you say it? It's Famke? She's great. I loved her as Jean Grey too. Guess what? She's messed up.
Well, when you start off the story killing off Scott and the Professor.
Who does that?
I don't know. Not that Scott's kind of a jerk, but killing him off.
They've never done him right either. They've not done a lot.
He's really kind of. Yeah.
You know what we want? I want the 90s cartoon show.
Yes.
Give me that live action.
Yes.
I want them to be the X-Men already. I want them to be in their 30s and their 40s. I don't want them learning how to use their powers. I want them to be the X-Men. You don't have to have them saving the world.
I think they were in their 20s during that show.
20s, 30s, doesn't matter.
They started off as teens in the comics, and they, comic time is very slow compared to regular time. So I think they were in their early to mid 20s by the time of the comic series. So
that 90s cartoon show, that was solid. It doesn't have to be a world-ending situation.
Right.
They can literally just be fighting Juggernaut. What if Juggernaut's trying to knock over a bank and he's like going on a spree?
If you did Juggernaut right, that would be fantastic. The Juggernaut from X3, of course, anything you mentioned from X3 is kind of a cluster. Yeah. It's terrible. But Juggernaut, a real live Juggernaut movie, that'd be awesome.
But I'm a huge Rogue. I'm a huge Rogue and Gambit fan. That's what I want. I want the real Rogue and Gambit,
with full powers and right.
I mean, and poor Jubilee, she's not even that great, but it's like that chick has been screwed over the most out of these X-Men movies. She's been in all of them. She's been in almost all of them, and they cut her out every time. Every time.
The person I feel they destroy the most is Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde is one of the greatest characters. They didn't even use her in Days of Future Past, which actually is a pretty solid movie.
I like that movie.
But
I like it.
Kitty Pryde is essential to that plot line. Why do you use Wolverine just because he's popular?
I don't like Ellen Page as Kitty Pryde, though.
Okay, I get that. I've not seen her enough as Kitty Pryde to know she's any good. Kitty Pryde is probably my favorite X-Men. But, again, my first X-Men comic was Welcome to the X-Men, Kitty Pryde. First one. So I now have it signed by Chris Claremont. So,
that's awesome.
yeah, I told him that. I said, this is my first comic ever, and this is what sucked me in. He goes, see this right here? This means that's what we meant to do. We meant to suck you in.
Wow.
You did it, sir. So
Thanks.
exactly. Thanks for you spending all my money so I didn't do drugs.
Appreciate it.
All right. A couple of movies coming up. Thor Ragnarok coming up, opens November 2nd. What are you guys thinking of that?
And by Thor Ragnarok, you mean Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Because that's what it looks like. I mean, and I get it. I'm sure it's probably going to be like connecting into the Guardians. I'm sure this is what the vehicle they're using. But I mean, like the old soundtrack, the bright neon colors, like not only just in the costumes, but like the words, the blocking of the words for Thor Ragnarok look just like the blocking for Guardians of the Galaxy. It felt like Marvel was like, the Thor movies haven't done as well. It does really well, the Guardians. Let's just kind of make it feel like that.
Well,
I'll watch it. I'm excited. I'll watch it. But I'm just saying it feels like Marvel is just taking what's successful for them and just saying, Thor's not super successful, but Guardians is.
Well, the first Thor movie was really good. The second one was okay.
One.
The second one I didn't mind. I didn't hate it. One of my favorites.
I just think it's crazy that no one else is saying that.
No, I agree. I think part of it is to connect the universes, to show this is more of a galaxy sort of thing, because Thor's going to be taken out of his element.
Right.
He's not going to be on Earth, and he's not going to be spending a lot of time in Asgard. He's going to be in a different part of the universe. I think that's part of it. So they're trying to play to that.
And I think it's cool that Hulk's in it.
Yeah, I think the whole part of it is going to be great. It's a buddy movie. This is a buddy movie. I think the great thing about the Marvel movies so far, and I believe DC's going to do this also, is they're basically taking their superheroes and putting them in different genres. This is a buddy movie. You had Ant-Man, which is basically a father-daughter movie on two different levels. You have Guardians, which is just a fun space movie. Everything's just a little bit different there. And I love how the feel of each of the movies are a little different. But you're right, it does kind of have that feel of Guardians, but it's not going to be the Guardians.
I love Guardians. I love Guardians. Like, I think Volume 1 and 2, next to Winter Soldier, are two of their best movies they've ever done.
Right, I agree with that.
But I feel like they're going to ruin that if they continue to try to make everything feel that way.
Well, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to. I think they're doing that intentionally because what I've also heard, people that have seen the early screenings say it's not nearly Guardians as much as you think it is.
Right.
It has that feel, and they're trying to connect the universe, but it's actually a much darker tale.
It better
very
be,
dark.
because we've discussed it before many times. It's like that's my big problem with the Marvel stuff right now. Is that I get it. It's like I have a nephew that loves these movies, and I love most of them. But that's my big problem too. I don't know. Like, I don't want to see a movie that's just made for kids. You know what I mean? And I feel like some of the Marvel movies have started to be that way, to where there's really weird, forced, awkward jokes or moments because they're like, kids are going to get a kick out of this. And it's like, yeah, but you're not just doing this for kids. You know what I mean? And that's what this feels like watching it. Like, that's what it feels like. I'm just like, oh, no.
See where we disagree with this. Where you're talking about the roller coaster earlier with horror movies, I think the same thing applies in the action superhero genre. I think you have to have those moments of levity where you come down and tell that joke. Spider-Man's always been perfect with that. And again, part of my philosophy is I'm a big Spidey fan, and that's how he deals with situations, is he cracks that joke in the middle of it. Guardians have done a fantastic job of that. And there are points in the Marvel movies where you do that. Guardians is supposed to.
It feels right. With Thor, it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like, what it felt right for the first Thor, right? Because it's the man out of place, right. So it makes it funny. But you have those side funny characters like that cat, that girl, her name's Cat, that is kind of the assistant
Right.
to the Natalie Portman
Right.
character. You have a vehicle like that makes it funny.
Right.
But like to me, the problem is there's some of these Marvel movies where they have these characters. Like Ant-Man did it well because again, that's just kind of Paul Rudd's character.
Right.
But you also have the side character that's telling the crazy stories
Which
and
I
like
love.
yeah, and like it's great. But like in those, you get those moments with those characters because that's who they are. That's what they're meant to be. But to me,
That's who I would be.
But to me, like having Thor actually be saying these funny one-liners feels wrong.
Well, but it would be kind of funny to see you're expecting to fight this horrible creature, and then you see it's your buddy, and then you realize, oh crap. You're like, I know him, he's from work. Oh crap, he's not himself, and he's going to kick my butt here.
Right, and see, to me, it's
See, I
like,
think it's
I
kinda
wish
funny.
he wouldn't have said I knew him from work or whatever.
Well,
Like, I feel like if he's just like, hey, like, that's my friend.
Right.
Like, you could have gotten the same effect to where it makes sense to be like, that's my friend, instead of like, would he say, like, that's my friend from work? It's like
he might.
so you're saying the Avengers is your day job?
He is.
Like,
well, because Thor
I don't
actually
know.
sees protecting Earth as his day job. He has given up on going and doing stuff in Asgard. He sees this as his day job, is protecting Earth.
It just feels very out
Well,
of
and I
place.
think
It works better when he's with the Avengers because him and Cap can play off. Because the fact that Cap's also a guy out of time,
Right,
where he's
right.
like, I get that,
right.
like I got that reference. Like that stuff is funny. Like the Avengers and like Winter Soldier, Guardians. Those are some really solid movies for me for Marvel. But like some of I don't know.
Winter Soldier is my favorite. That and Avengers are my two favorite ones. So I'm
we
with.
could talk.
but
We're like almost.
Spider-Man:
at 3
Homecoming
hours.
is I know. Let's get along.
We
Sorry.
could talk about the Marvel stuff forever.
Well, and okay, so moving right along. There's also this DC movie coming out in November also. What? On November 17th. But there's rumors out there that they're expecting box office to be lower than what they were in projecting.
They also said that for Wonder Woman.
Which was stupid.
They said that for Wonder Woman as well. They said that Wonder Woman was going to bomb, and look at it. It's crushing it still. So I'm a strong believer not. I don't listen to reviews. I don't listen to what most people tell me. I'm going to go and watch a movie. I may hear what people say. Like I may say, oh, Larry said this is bad. Let's go and watch it and see. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a person that's going to be like, ooh, they said it's not going to do well in the box office. Forget it. I'm not going to watch it. That's silly. It is so silly. And it's just, we've discussed it before. Marvel has it out for DC.
I don't think it's Marvel. I think it's just people's different view.
Disney, which owns Marvel, has it out for DC.
I don't know. That's true.
It's
Have
weird.
you, okay.
It's Collider. If you watch Collider videos, they have this big thing where they talk about the greatness of Star Wars. It's so great. You know, and then like the last movie they did was Rogue One, right? And they had to reshoot a lot of it.
Right.
Where were the stories?
You didn't
the
hear,
constant stories.
Right.
a constant of like, there's problems on set, there's
And-
problems on set.
and-
You don't hear that,
Well,
but
With Justice League, you get those stories that they're talking about how the film has been to be reshot 3 times, and none of it's true. But they put out all these stories, and it's very coordinated because it's several different sources, and they'll take things that are not reliable, especially like the Wonder Woman letter from Reddit. I think it was from Reddit. Totally false. It was completely wrong.
Right.
They
saying how
ran with
the
it.
cast weren't getting
Yeah.
along, and like the director wasn't getting
It's-
along with Gal, and it's like they're best friends.
When you-
They like travel
when
together.
when you take a look at all the little pieces, and this goes back to even to like with the reason why I say this is because of what happened to Quentin Tarantino with Disney, making a movie theater drop their contract with Tarantino and their studio, whatever, to put out The Hateful Eight, to play Star Wars Force Awakens for another weekend. They had to break a contract because with Tarantino because Disney threatened, we will never let any of our movies play in your theater again. And after that, that was the thing that made me go, whoa, that scared the hell out of me.
Sure.
So after that, you know, you start seeing all these stories about Justice League and Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad and all this stuff, and none of it really added up to anything. And we're still getting those stories. Even today, there's a lot of the stories about how the DCEU is not properly they're throwing it away, or they're changing it, or they're doing something.
And how it's failing, and it's like it's doing amazing in the box offices.
Yeah.
Like, and they're saying Batman vs Superman didn't hit $1 billion.
It's all
Most films don't hit $1 billion.
No, it's all circumstantial.
Right.
It's not hard evidence.
And I think Collider has a habit of running with stuff like that. Now, I will say there are plenty of stories out there right now about Star Wars having failings, especially with Han Solo.
But you're not hearing them.
I'm hearing
But
they have those stories, but they'll
and then they bury it.
And then it's like the next day, but we got Ron Howard. And again, like with Collider, they talk about how, I'm not worried about it. And they'll finally get Ron Howard on, and he's going to steer the ship.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not going to be a problem. But it's a DC thing, and it's done.
It's very strange.
We should just start over.
And I can see that, and I think there are probably certain segments of the media that maybe play to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if
And
there's a conspiracy. Well, and I'm hearing horrible things about Inhumans. I've not seen the episode yet.
See, and I've seen one thing. I have seen one
Oh, really?
thing.
Because I've
I've
seen
seen
several.
one thing in my Facebook feed compared to the 10 bad things I've seen about Justice League. The one thing to where they're saying, like, I've done research, they're saying they may not even do another season.
No, right.
It's failing that badly. And I've seen the one article, but I've seen 10 about reshoots for Justice League.
And maybe it's because of what Facebook's wanting to put in your feed. I don't know. Because I'm reading numerous things about the failings of Inhumans and where it's gone wrong, and how they're not going to make a second season because this one's so bad, which really upsets me because I saw the preview and thought, okay, they can fix some things with the special effects as long as the story's good. There's some things you can do there. But I love Lockjaw. I think he looks great, and I think you can do some things. And doing Medusa's hair is always going to be a tricky thing, trying to figure out how to work that out. But I'm like going, okay, you can fix those things in special effects after that trailer released. I'm not too worried about it. But then I've read probably 20 articles on the failings of the Inhumans and how ABC didn't even want to take it and Disney forced them to take it.
Great job, Disney.
Well, you own the place. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
I'm not going to complain to Disney. And Disney puts out a lot of great stuff. And if they want to put out a stinker, that's up to them. But I'm
just saying, way to go at forcing somebody.
Right,
like there's
exactly.
no, because you're not going to get good work out of people if you force them to do something.
Right.
Or you force them to take a show. They're not going to put their best foot forward on it because they don't want it.
Well, they're even advertising it as the complete series.
Right.
So that pretty much tells you we're not going to renew it, even if it comes out and smashes. We're not planning on renewing it. Now, if it does, if it comes out and gets 12s in the ratings or whatever, but people are already looking at that negatively. So they're already hearing that news. At least I am. And I've not watched the first episode. I'm going to watch the first episode. I just haven't. I think it came out last night. Did it?
Yeah.
It's been last night or a day.
So it should be on Hulu tonight. And so I'm planning on trying to catch up with that the next couple of days and watch it and give my own opinion because I don't want to listen to the critics either.
Right.
Yeah. I'm with you. And,
I just didn't think it looked good. Like, that was my thing. It's like, I wasn't listening to critics because, like I said, I've only seen, the one thing.
Right.
But, I just, visually, I was just I just don't like how it looks. I'm having issues.
There were certain things that I saw and thought, oh, that looks great. And there's certain things I went and thought, okay, they can fix that. They can go back and fix that. Okay, that'll be all right. It
just feels like that should have just been a movie to me. It doesn't feel like it should have been a show.
They originally were going to make it a movie. I think the problem is the Inhumans and the X-Men are somewhat tied together. So you have this whole, and actually Inhumans predated the X-Men. But you've got this whole, there's something that causes you to have power sort of thing. So they're very similar characters. People aren't familiar with the Inhumans.
Right.
They didn't have a popular show in the 90s. Nobody knows who they are. There's some really cool characters. There's some kind of lame characters, but you can make them cool. Ant-Man is kind of a lame character, but that movie was awesome, and he was great in Civil War.
There's kind of lame characters.
There are.
All of them, though.
Right.
You're just like, what?
I don't mind the lame characters.
Rubber Band Man.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Kite Man for Batman, bad guy, whatever. So,
what is that?
So anyway, but yeah, the Inhumans, it's kind of an interesting look. I'll give my review on Geeky Cool on that. I'll write something up on it because I'm interested to see what they do. Right. So, all right. So I too have high expectations for Justice League movie. The reason I think the $1 billion was a big deal was there was some smack talk at one point that DC could keep up with Marvel, and if Avengers could make $1 billion, and so could Batman versus Superman, and it just wasn't a realistic thing because it wasn't the combination movie where Marvel had built up these characters and put them together. You were trying to force this movie, not force as in a bad thing, but you were trying to put this movie out, and people were instantly comparing that to Avengers, and that wasn't a fair comparison.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. I mean, you didn't have that same expectation. People didn't go and see 3 or 4 movies building up to it and couldn't wait to see it. This is what this movie was, and it was different than what Avengers was.
And it still made almost like $900 million. Right. It was a success because it surpassed the budget to make the movie, which is what counts it to make it a success. And if we're talking numbers,
you gotta make the budget and the profit.
Right, you gotta make profit. Right.
Like Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, and Batman vs Superman all did that.
Right. I'm not saying anything
did that.
And
here. What's crazy is people say that they're failures, even though those 4 movies have surpassed most of the Marvel films. This is why I wish Keith was here, because he knows the numbers. I don't know the numbers. Well, but they've surpassed most of them. They've surpassed most of the Marvel stuff, which is hilarious that people want to say they're failures.
Are you engaging people where they are excited about these characters? I think that's another thing that people are going to compare it on. And for me, and my failing with Batman vs. Superman actually goes back to Man of Steel. I don't like this version of Superman. This version of Batman is fine, but I feel like this version of Superman is just another Batman. He has superpowers because he's brooding. It's kind of like it's an earlier Batman where he's not as cynical. So I don't like that version of Superman, and that's why I don't like it. Now, they've killed him, they'll bring him back. We'll see if he's renewed as a new man. I hope so. I've heard had an attitude adjustment. I'm no longer the brooding teenager that I don't know if I can blind the tornado and save my father. Oh, good grief.
I love it.
So, and that's fine. We have different opinions on that. But I've heard they're going to be using some of the original Superman music for Justice League.
Danny Elfman.
Surprise, they're bringing Superman back if you didn't know.
Yeah, spoiler alert. You should have figured it out because it's in Batman vs. Superman.
Well, he doesn't come back then. They bury him.
The rocks move. The rocks start floating above the casket. Something's happening down there.
Kryptonian poisoning.
And who was it? Oh, it was Jason Momoa, who I'm just so pumped about in life in general. Because he just seems like a cool dude. He tells the sweetest thing ever. Sweetest thing ever. No, he's just a great guy. I mean, he's just a down-to-earth guy. At Comic-Con, some little kid is crying because he's Superman died. And he leans down and he's like, don't worry. He's totally gonna come back. He's fine. Don't worry about it. Telling this little kid, even though in the big hall, he's he died. It was messing around with people. Right, so this little kid was crying and he leans down and tells him Jason Momoa spoils spoiler alert city. They should just put that guy away so he can't tell people stuff. But it was so sweet because he tells this kid hey, don't worry about it. Superman's got it. He'll be back. And it was the most precious thing ever to see him because it's just and that's another reason why I think I just lean more towards DC is just because of the actors that they have. The legitimate love that they seem to have for these characters and for the fans that you're seeing, it just, I don't know, it blows me away.
So you've not seen the stuff that all the Marvel character people have been doing over the years?
No, I've seen.
I mean, because you got Captain America going places.
Time out. I've seen Chris Pratt, I've seen Chris Evans, and I've seen Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. Those are literally the only 3 people.
Have you not seen Tom Holland? Tom Holland.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Tom Holland.
That's
new.
The hotel, the hospital. Oh my gosh.
That's new when he does backflips.
Yes, that's awesome.
But that's new. But those are the only 4. I'm saying and I'm not saying anything bad about Marvel. I do love these movies, and it's but I'm talking about if you think about it too, and I love Scarlett Johansson. I love her, but I don't see her doing any of the stuff that I see Gal Gadot doing. Gal Gadot's doing those same things, and so it's nice to see one of the girls doing it, mm-hmm. and seeing it's their whole team, and I get it, their team is smaller, but I see their whole team doing stuff. Where with Marvel, I'm only seeing a couple people here and there, And it's like, I don't know, like I feel like they're on a greater scale. So to me, I'm holding them to a higher standard, which I guess isn't fair. But like, it's hard when they're not all doing stuff.
Sure.
And I get it, they're busy. But it's like, when you see like Chris Pratt do it, it's like you're changing people's lives.
Well,
You know what I mean? And it's like you just don't see it as much. Like, I don't know. It's, and like I said, it's kind of hard because I love Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
And it bums me out a little bit that she doesn't do stuff as like Black Widow, or you know what I mean? Like she doesn't do that stuff. And
That we
maybe
see.
there's reasons. Maybe there's reasons behind it.
Right.
But like it's hard like when you're seeing Gal do it, and I'm just like, that's so cool because like girls need people
Right,
like that.
right.
And like Scarlett Johansson has been around for so long that like it's like that could be you. Like that could be you because you were there first.
She's holding up for her
essentially.
first movie.
Yeah,
For solo.
like she should have had a solo movie. Like
You're
Should
preaching
have
the
been.
choir on that. She should have instantly after
and maybe that's why she
after
doesn't
Civil
do
War
it.
II.
Like who knows?
I'm sorry. After
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier,
I
and
thought they were
basically
setting up for
Winter
that.
Soldier was a Captain America and Black Widow. It's called Captain America, but it's really those two together. That movie is about
And that's
them
why
teaming up.
I loved Winter Soldier so
Yeah,
much.
right.
Because I was like, oh, we're setting up for a Black Widow
Yes,
movie.
I agree. They
And I
should have
think
done
that
that.
could be another reason why I have issues with Marvel too. Is that
Well, sure.
we should have had a Black Widow movie.
I agree with you. I
5
can't.
years ago.
I can't disagree with that at all. They should have, because that would be a kick butt movie.
Because she's
Now-
amazing.
Now I
Scarlett
have
Johansson's
seen
amazing.
Hallie Atwell doing similar things.
Yeah,
And-
and again, it's like that's another show that should have been canceled. It's like we shouldn't have Inhumans. We should have another Peggy Carter.
Oh, agreed. Agent Carter. I have complained that Agent Carter got the raw end of the deal. Agent Carter was one of the best shows on. I loved Agent Carter. I still love Agent Carter.
She's great.
So, all right. So moving along from that to a little bit more of the
Sorry.
news. So we don't make this a 4-hour episode.
Sorry, it's
Don't be
getting
sorry.
close.
This is what we do. So
Getting
people,
close.
it is. All right. Pacific Rim put out some posters. You guys excited about Pacific
Oh, yeah.
Rim?
That's gonna be
That's another
awesome.
underrated movie. The first one was
I
very
agreed.
underrated.
That was my favorite movie that year. I
Yeah.
love that movie. Anytime you put giant monsters and giant robots, really, you couldn't go wrong. The movie was done great and
Oh, yeah.
shot very anime looking at points. It was just beautiful. The
It
whole
had a good
whack
story, too.
draft, and it was raining. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. It had a great story. Now the
And the
Jaegers
kaiju's like
Kaijus are awesome.
they, like with the neon and like how one was like a
Uh-huh.
hammerhead shark.
Yes,
And, like that was cool. Like they had names for all of
they
them.
did.
And you can't go wrong with Charlie Day. He is great. I love that guy. He's got like the kaiju tattoos all up his arms, and Ron Perlman.
I know.
Movie was
Ron Perlman
solid.
was awesome in that.
And
Well,
Idris Elba,
the
dude rocks.
the new Jaegers are going to be single piloted.
How is that possible?
Next Generation. I don't
Oh,
know.
Okay, I thought it was supposed to be like a prequel.
No, I think it's a sequel. I'm pretty sure it's a
Because
sequel
I thought
to it.
Idris Elba was in it.
Probably a flashback.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
probably. Because I don't know. But yeah, they're showing the stuff for it. It looks really awesome.
I
So,
like Boyega. So his
Yeah,
best
yeah.
movie, guess what? Not Force Awakens. Attack the Block. Your best movie is Attack the Block. The movie's awesome. Everyone should watch that as well. Also underrated.
Mhm.
Another movie I didn't know about until night. I love it. It's so good.
But I do like
Seen
Force
it?
Awakens. I've not seen
Oh, it's a monster. I mean, it's a monster alien movie.
See,
It's
I-
awesome.
it. What's it called again?
Attack the Block.
Oh yeah, I have heard of it.
Good.
I saw the
So good.
preview for it, and then for whatever reason, I never ended up seeing it, and then I haven't found it since. So
Yeah,
I, mean,
it's so good.
I did want to
It's
see
good.
that. So I did want to see Attack on the Block. Yeah,
He's really good in it.
It's kind of like Stranger Things.
that's
Yeah,
what I
it
want to
is.
hear.
Yeah.
Mm.
Attack the Block was first.
Also in geek news, kind of sad news and weird news. Harry Knowles of Ain't It Cool News steps down in the midst of basically being accused of sexual assault on now up to 5 women. So,
Oh wow!
Don't assault
Really?
people.
Yeah. Yeah, he one woman came out, and it's been out for about a week or so that she, over a several year period, he would grope her and do things at these movie things, and
It's so sad.
Yeah,
Just
it
don't
is.
assault people. Guys, girls, guys. It doesn't matter.
don't
Just
touch
respect
people unless they want you to touch them.
Yeah. Just be respectful. of
Yeah,
people.
right.
It's just, I feel like it's common sense and
It
it's
is.
not hard.
Well, and I
It's-
think nowadays, I think the reason it's waited to come out is because now people are more open to hearing about that. More
right?
open to hearing
and that's
that.
something we talked
yeah.
about. It's like so hard too, because it's like people don't want to come out about it because they're afraid they're not going to be believed or
Right,
listened to.
right.
And then, because you have some people that do false claims,
Right.
so it affects people that have real claims.
Right.
It's just a hard situation. And
It
if
is.
everybody would just be cool and just leave each other alone, be nice, be respectful. Like if you're nice and respectful, we're not going to have problems.
Right,
Like nobody will have problems.
Right.
Just be cool. Like leave people alone.
What she said.
Jeez Louise.
And the sad thing is, Harry Knowles is this big, well-known geek. Started this website back in the '90s when websites were really just starting off. Kind of gave inspiration at a level for me to do Geeky Cool. So I find that very sad news, but not sad that he stepped down, but just sad that he would do that, apparently. And again, it's all accusations, but once you start getting multiple people saying the same thing, it's hard not to believe that. I mean, one person is saying it.
Like make you really look into it.
Right, exactly.
That many people.
So the good news for AndyCool.news is they will be without him, so they can kind of move along, continue to do what they do. His sister is taking over the day-to-day control of it, and he said he's going to go to therapy and detox and get right. So
is he admitting it then?
I think he's admitting there's problems. I don't know. He's come out and saying he did not assault her, and then that was before 4 of the women just came out earlier this week.
It makes me feel like you're admitting to something if you're gonna go.
Well, two of the biggest writers dropped out. That's when
That's when
I took it seriously when that happened, because I'm like, well,
Mhm.
what did they know? Because they're right there.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Before he stepped down, that was exactly 2 writers stepped down and said they weren't going to work for him any longer, and then he stepped down. I think that's what caused him to really reevaluate. So, Harry Knowles, if you're watching, please get well. We hope you didn't do this, and we hope if you did, you make amends whatever way possible. So, and as she said, just be cool.
Be cool.
Don't touch people that want to be touched.
And open back the talkbacks.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
But that goes out to your sister there who's running AndyCool News now. So open up the
Knight likes it
talkbacks.
for mean reasons. Be cool, Knight. Just be nice.
Talking about geek stuff, Wizard World Springfield was supposed to be November this year. It has now moved back till fall of next year. Good
Which-
thing, bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, because we want it to be successful.
Yes.
I mean, we have a lot of cons in this area, which is awesome. And we go to all of them, and it's nice to have like a nice big scale thing.
Right.
So I think it's for the best, because you want it to succeed. You don't want it to do something small and then not do well, and then they don't ever come back.
Right.
So I think it's with with this type of stuff, I think it's the best to plan out, because they kind of said, we just didn't feel like it was enough time to get the show together that we want to present.
Right.
And it's so as long as they follow through and we actually get one next year, my only thing is I just kind of wish they wouldn't have brought it up until they knew 100%, because there's artists going, we were contacting them to see if we could do a showing.
Yep.
Because, Strange Happenings, we're going to be releasing it this month. So we were thinking that'd be perfect to do a panel and a showing there, and it's it's in the city we live in, and so it's one of those things. I think it's gonna be for the best, because I want the best possible show, because I want it to keep happening.
Right. Exactly. Thoughts, Jason? No. All right. Well, I agree.
He's done. He's
done.
done. You're not
Yeah,
directing. You're not directing horror questions to him anymore. He's finished.
No,
He's done with it.
I agree with you. I was sad to see that it decided not to. I thought when they announced it, that was a little too quick. Because they announced it, they only had 2 months to get people. The only person they had that was a big star was Nichelle Nichols, which would have been awesome. Hopefully she'll come back.
Here he comes.
Yeah, that's true.
What?
So
the guy did they have an Outlander guy?
They did, and I didn't know who he was because I hadn't watched Outlander yet.
Yeah.
Now I'm caught up, and I love the show. So I would have been now I'm disappointed because I don't even know who it was. I don't know if you can go back and look at who it was, so I can be
don't
bummed.
think it says anymore.
So I can be bummed.
Because I went out to the site and it basically just points to
I
next
wonder
year's show.
who it would have been. I wonder who it was. If anybody remembers who was from Outlander, tell me so I can be bummed.
Post a
about it.
comment on this.
Yeah, so I can be bummed.
All
It's a
right.
good show, too.
Another thing about convention, though, is we've got a convention here in Springfield next weekend. Game is coming up next weekend.
Woo,
Really?
woo.
Is it that
Yeah,
soon?
it is
Yeah.
that soon. It is next weekend. Game is basically a gaming convention, but also it does have artists and entertainment, and it's not one of the larger cons, but it's a well-attended con.
Yeah, that's a
It's
fun
a
one.
fun-
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
it's
3-day convention next weekend. So if you're in the Springfield, Missouri area or Southwest Missouri, check out Game next weekend because it'll be a fun
Okay.
convention. All right.
Will you guys be there?
I probably won't because I've got a lot of other things going on next weekend. So with my daughter and I don't know. I'm going to try to go. We'll see. I can't commit to it at the moment. It's marching band season and cheerleading season, and yeah. And then I would have my son who will last about an hour, and then I want to go home.
He's like, and done.
And unless he meets Brittney, starts talking to her about Batman and Superman, then he might go on for a while. But he'll definitely talk Star Wars if he does, because that's his go-to right now.
And he is adorable. He force choked me at Library Con. It was awesome.
Which is funny because he was a Jedi. I'm like, Jedi's don't force
Yeah.
choke.
Yeah, it was fun. He's adorable.
Luke Skywalker did. Return of the Jedi did the thing with the 2 pig guards. He went,
But he didn't force choke him though.
that was force choking. Watch the movies.
I have watched the movie. I've watched the movies. I've been watching the movies before you were born.
No.
I saw it in the theater in '83,
Ah.
and I've had it on VHS. I have 2 different versions of the VHS, the DVDs, and now I've got a digital. So yes.
I got the bootleg Blu-rays.
Oh
They
yeah,
took out
of
all
the original.
Yeah, they took out all the crap and put it back together. It's awesome. I recommend that.
Disney talked about releasing them that way, releasing them to where they will be in the original, and then the enhanced, and then the re-enhanced, and you can have it 800 different ways.
When it comes out, then I'll believe it.
All right. Well, here's the key. Disney is going to see this as a way to make money because people are going to spend money to buy it.
I hope so.
Disney is not Lucas who wanted to control what people saw with it. Disney wants to make money. And so I believe it'll happen because it'll help the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which,
Just
if I was
win.
Disney, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, but win kind of thing.
All right. We've come to the place in the show where we ask our guest some stuff about movie quotes.
Oh no.
And yes, I know. So, as our guest, Jason, I've got some movie quotes. Now, what I'd like to do, because we're going to play this game some different ways with different people, but I would like to have you and Brittney go against each other here. If that would be okay.
So,
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
What?
All right.
I'm gonna
So-
lose.
And some of these are easy quotes, some of them are hard quotes, but they're all horror movie quotes
I'm gonna
of
lose.
some sort.
I'll
And
lose.
if you do, it's okay. It's good to let the guests win. That's what I learned from
Yeah,
Alan. So.
throw me a bone here. It's my first
All right.
show.
So, first one to raise their hand gets to answer it. What movie is this from? I see dead people.
Sixth Sense.
That was close. She did get it, though. Her hand was up first. A point to Brittney.
One.
Oh my God.
All
Mark
right.
that down. One.
All right, another easy one. You guys ready for another easy bone?
Yep.
We'll let Brittney finish writing so she can get her hand ready here. All right. Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play? Oh, Brittney!
Child's Play.
Child's play.
I won't get any more probably, but two. I got two.
And feel free to raise your hand. You don't have to wait for the quote to be finished.
Oh, geez.
And you get a bonus point if you can tell me who said it in this one.
Oh, goodness.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
It is Scream, and it's Rose McDonald.
Nope, that's wrong. It's Rose McGowan.
McGowan.
Who plays Tatum.
Tatum! Yes! You get the point for the movie, though.
Oh,
You get the point for the person.
dang it.
It's like one of my favorite lines. I say it all the time.
All right, me.
Yes, I do.
Other people.
Whatever.
Other
Whatever.
people.
All right.
Didn't even know her name.
All right. All right, you guys ready?
Donald. What the?
All right. When there's no room left in hell.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yep.
He's gonna turn real fast.
All right. All right. We just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does this sound fine?
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2.
Lose. gonna lose.
All right. That ain't the weather. That's death approaching.
Ooh, I don't know what that is.
Ooh.
I won't even
this
like
one.
pretend to raise my
Oh,
hand.
oh,
I'm
oh.
going to guess shark tornado.
Nope. 30 Days a Night.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw it once.
Yeah, I was not a fan of it.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't very good. Oh,
I'm not a
man.
fan.
All right. This one is worth 10 points.
Whoa! Jeez,
But
I'm
you've
about
got to
get
have
blown out of the water.
have the movie and the author right to get the points.
Uh-oh, I'm gonna get blown out.
Not the author, the person who said it. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. Well, I've got news for you, pal. You ain't.
Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell, Ash.
Yes!
Golly.
You ain't but two things right now. Jack and Jack left town.
14-2.
No.
Technically, it should be 5-2 if we're not going for that whole 10-point business at the end. Oh, I'm so mad I didn't get my hand up fast enough for that stinking string one.
Thanks for playing with
That
us,
was
Jason.
fun. That was fun.
Not
And
gonna
you know what's
hear
more
the end of
fun?
that one.
Winning. Winning is the most important thing.
We'll see what happens when we get to the house.
You know, that kind of sounds like something from Karate Kid there. You know, winning is the most important thing.
Yeah, probably. It's probably
Yeah.
He's just stealing stuff now,
Yeah, we'll have to play it again on non-horror movie quotes and see what happens.
right?
Maybe superhero movie quotes.
I think I'd win.
You think you'd win? See, the most superhero quotes I know are from Batman. So I know a lot of quotes, but I memorized that movie when I got it when it came out on VHS, Christmas of '89, and we watched that in my dorm room because I was in college at that point. You guys were still in diapers, and watched that movie like every day for a semester. So memorized the snot out of it.
I've watched it 6 times already this year.
Wow, that's
I
awesome.
watch it all the time. I watch
That's such a great
Batman.
movie.
I watch Batman, Clue, and Beetlejuice all the time.
3 very solid movies to
All the
watch.
time.
2 of them Keaton, so there you go.
And I watch See No Evil 2 a lot. I brought that one.
Oh,
I watch See No Evil 2 a lot.
Yeah, we hadn't got to the movies you guys brought. These are some movies that you want to talk about. So let's talk about those real quick.
I guess we can just show you. So, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I've seen that and I wasn't a fan, but you know, I may not have been in the right mindset for it.
Saw it when I was 5, so I
Yeah.
was scared.
Yeah,
Pretty scared.
yeah, well, it's kind of a freaky movie.
It is. The prosthetics are solid. Like, the clowns look amazing in it. The Final Girls.
I've seen The Final Girls.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, from-
Another super solid, creative horror film that has a lot of comedy elements to it, and it's very emotional. It's really good. So that's another one, which I said Freaks of Nature
Freaks of Nature.
earlier.
Yeah.
These are all movies I think are super underrated. See No Evil 2, which the Twisted Twins directed, which is awesome because I like horror films and it's cool when girls get to do
Yeah,
stuff like
right.
that. Danielle Harris is in it. Love her.
Now, was there a first one and See No
There
Evil
is.
1?
There is. I love See No Evil 2 more. It's got Kane in it. I like the second one way better. I think
All right.
I think it's another one of those
See, I
pretty.
thought I saw the first one. I don't think I ever saw the second one.
I
The
really
Guest.
like it. And then The Guest, which is another one of those really well written movies where it's not really horror, but it's at Halloween and it's just got such a great vibe to it.
Is it more of a thriller type
Yeah.
of movie? Yes,
Yeah,
I
more
love
of a
thriller movies.
suspense.
I think it's more of a subtle horror film.
Yeah.
You don't realize
So-
you're watching a horror film until
Until
really
at the end.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's-
And I actually like
it's
stuff
really
like that.
good.
I love something that gets me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
Right, and this will do it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I like that.
It's this is also another really underrated, really good
Yeah.
movie to watch around. You should have like 31 favorite Halloween movies, so you
Yeah.
can watch one a day.
That
in
would be
October.
awesome. That's a great idea.
So-
Great suggestion here from Brittney.
So that's,
Yeah.
that should be everybody.
And what did you bring for us, Knight?
All right. So if you like, I like to bring out some like more obscure stuff that people haven't really seen before,
Yeah.
you know, or heard about. One is Cemetery Man. It's kind of like it's really oddly a comic book movie.
Really?
Yeah, because Rupert Everett's in it, and he plays Francesco Della Morte. And the movie is Italian. It's actually Della Morte, Della More, or vice versa that. But he plays a character that shows up in an Italian comic book called Dylan Dog, which they did make into a movie here in the States, but he's like a side character, and they just decided to make a movie about it. But this is about a caretaker of a cemetery who's trying to advance his way in life, and he can't do it. And so he finds himself kind of trying to go up in life, and he's trying to go down in life, and it's just a big metaphor, very fantastical kind of a film, but I highly recommend it. The Dead Hate the Living is a kind of like a cheapy zombie film that's kind of an homage to like Italian horror films, especially Lucio Fulci. I can't say his name right, Fulci. But I really like this movie. It's kind of cheapy, but it's also got a lot of heart to it, so I really highly recommend this one. This one's pretty good. It's got some really good visuals and some unique monsters or zombies, but I really like this one a lot, and I try to recommend it whenever I can.
Awesome.
The Burning is kind of like it's pretty much a Friday the 13th knockoff.
Right.
You know, some kids play a prank and they light this guy on fire. He goes into a coma, wakes up, kills a hooker, and decides to go kill campers in a camp somewhere.
That's a perfect transition.
Yeah, you know?
Completely.
It's got Jason Alexander as a teenager. He still looks like he's 34. And the bad guy from Hackers is in it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And then Neon Maniacs is a totally 80s film, right?
It looks like an 80s film.
It's totally 80s cheese, but it's also kind of scary. Neon Maniacs are these beings that come from another dimension, and they go around and kill people for some reason, and then drag their bodies back into the other dimension. You got like they're kind of like mutated action figures. Like you got a cop, you got a biker, you got an Indian guy, you got
it's the village people.
Yeah, really, it is. And there's a surgeon, there's a soldier one, but it's very bizarre, and it's hard to place. It's a slasher film with these weird monsters, and they call them the Neon Maniacs. I don't know who calls them Neon Maniacs. They don't call them in the movie Neon Maniacs.
Right.
But they have their own Pokemon-like cards too that you see at the beginning of the movie, and then they never show them again. They're just there in a cow skull. But I mean, it's just a bizarre movie. It's really fun to talk about, but it's like. They don't explain anything. It's just stuff that happens, and I highly recommend this one, Neon Maniacs.
Awesome.
I didn't describe any of these, but...
Would you like to?
No, that's okay. I mean, you should just watch all of them. They're really good.
Check them out if you're into horror movies. And
there's a couple of these that aren't really horror either. Like The Final Girls, I mean, it's a slasher film, but not really a slasher film. But, there's not a lot of blood. I mean, The Final Girls is PG-13, and it's still in my top 10 favorite horror films because I think it's
well, and you don't have to have all that. You can have all that, but you don't have to have all that to have a good horror film.
It's really shot. It's shot well, and it's got a really neat story, and it's got a lot of heart and stuff like that, which you don't expect. I cried twice watching it. I was not expecting.
So if you want a chick flick horror movie, check out The Final Girls.
It's really good.
Really good. All right. Well, we come to the end of the show, guys. And people watching are going, are you kidding? Finally, you're making the end of the show. Will you people shut up? We have a lot to talk about. If we could do this weekly, we could probably break it down a little more often for you. But since we do it monthly or so, it's probably going to be a little longer.
You're going to have long episodes.
You are, because we like to talk. So
you sit down and watch The Lord of the Rings, right? Same difference.
You've not even got out of the Shire yet if you're watching Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And I love Lord of the Rings, so that's no diss.
And I did compare our show to Lord of the Rings.
This is epic podcasting.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we're in the first season, so we may be more of a Hobbit than Lord of the Rings, but still, give us a chance. We'll get there.
Right.
All right. Time where we come and tell people kind of what we're doing, where we're at, and give our final goodbyes. So I'm Larry Lytle of geekykool.com, geekykool, cool with a K. And check us out. We talk geek stuff, so we would love to have you come over and talk geek with us on the website and post comments on our stuff and keep up with the news with us.
I'm Brittney Greer from American Wasteland Entertainment, and right now we're working on 2 web series, Barker Hole and Strange Happenings. Strange Happenings is very fitting for the Halloween time period. It's supernatural horror dramedy, so it's got a lot of the funny elements to it. We'll be releasing telling our actual release date next week, the first week of October. So hopefully you're following us on Facebook. If not, go there and like our page. We just broke 1,000 likes,
Woo!
which is awesome. We wanted to do it before October, and we did it yesterday. So keep on liking it, and stay tuned for our release date.
And before you go with that, tell them the name of your actor, or not actor, your character, the main character in Strange Happenings.
Oh, her name is Nicole Tesla.
Yes, I love that name.
Right, she's great. Played by Hannah. Hannah Duncan is in the credits and stuff like that. And then we also have David Fielding.
Yes.
Who plays the original Zordon on the Power Rangers, and he is the nicest guy. He's super talented, great guy. And he'll be taking over our Facebook page on October 11th. So join him then.
And he gave them all Power Ranger suits, true. So it's really cool.
Right? Yeah, I got a helmet. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm actually a Power Ranger now.
There you go.
I've had a communicator going off for 3 hours.
I didn't
I just
get
ignored
one
it.
because I didn't have enough attitude.
You weren't a teenager with an attitude. That was the problem.
He wasn't
right.
sassy enough.
I wasn't.
You gotta have the attitude with
Uh-huh.
Good Night.
I
And
was.
Jason Knight, how can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about horror movies or anything else geeky that you know a plethora about?
I write a blog for Howlin' Wolf Records and also my own personal blog, jason-youmustbebored.com or blogspot.com. It's really long, but that's basically it, as well as looking up on Facebook. I'm also with American Wasteland. So, yeah, that's it.
Look us up, but don't be weird about it. Don't get weird.
You can get weird.
Please don't stalk. Jason might be okay with you.
I'm okay with the stalker.
He's okay with you getting weird.
Yeah. So stalk Knight, not Brittney. So.
Yeah.
All right. So for Larry
And Brittney.
and
Night.
this has been Titans of the Fantastic. Thank you for watching.
Bye, Keith.